This is ESPN on ABC.
Welcome to the NBA Draft 2024 on ABC, presented by State Farm. A beautiful night in Brooklyn, a night young hoopers dream about. To hear their name called by the commissioner, highlighting a journey of hard work featuring long hours in the gym. UConn big man Donovan Cleveland, and then the Frenchman center Alexander N. Ford. Zachary Richeche, could we hear their name at number 1? And Kentucky's Reed Sheppard. They will headline a handful of storylines as 30 dreams will come true on the big stage. Tonight on ABC, the future of the NBA starts here.
The joy of the perfect fit.
Hopefully I can go in and contribute and maybe turn it around.
A symbol of past and future. A thread connecting legendary names.
I'd love to be like some of the greatest players, maybe even surpass them.
A scene held together by a dream.
Now this is the beginning, and there's so much more ahead.
Banner number 18 has been secured.
The future is in the cap.
When I was younger, I would put on a hat and act like I've been drafted.
It's a huge representation, a lot comes with it.
Adding another stitch in the tapestry of the game.
If I heard my name in that draft night, it would be a dream come true.
I see basketball everywhere, and that's my DNA.
Here goes playing and put it in. How big was that? That man is NBA bound.
This is a night to arrive in style, with one last accessory to come.
With the first pick, Shaquille O'Neal, Stephen Curry, Victor Wembanyama.
Tonight completes the fit at the NBA Draft.
It's all about the perfect fit. Who will wear the crown representing the Hawks at number 1 on a night that has been deemed in a variety of ways? Not consensus, the word unpredictable stands out. Polarizing, and buckle up, because we could be in for a very wild night. Kevin Negandhi here on our ABC set alongside Stephen A. Smith and Bob Myers. And Bob, you've been on the other side calling these picks in for your team. Well, let me tell you, we've got our resident GM here who's feeling really good about the night. He is feeling really good about how his team feels and looks so far.
President of basketball operations. Call me Mr. President.
To become a GM, and then they promote you to a president.
I cannot wait, of course, as we talk about a potential night featuring a ton of trades and action and movement with veteran players, but it is all about these young men hearing their name called by the commissioner, Adam Silver.
Good evening and welcome to the 2024 NBA Draft. As a new class of players enters the league tonight, I'm reminded of two giants of our game who we recently lost. Jerry West, the number 2 pick in the 1960 NBA Draft, and Bill Walton, who was selected number 1 in 1974. Jerry played in 9 NBA Finals and won 9 championships as a player and executive. Bill won 2 championships at UCLA and 2 more in the NBA. Both were named one of the 50 greatest players in league history. They were 2 very different people. Their backgrounds, their personalities, their interests, and their style of play, all strikingly different. But what connected them was their shared love and devotion to the game of basketball and their dream of playing in the NBA, the same dream that bonds this year's draft picks. Like Jerry West and Bill Walton, all the players selected tonight have their own unique story that led them here to the draft, a culmination of years of hard work and dedication. The draft, of course, is also an important night for our teams. Look no further than the Boston Celtics, the reigning NBA champions. In consecutive years, they selected Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum with the 3rd pick. 2 players who became all-stars and then led their team to its first championship in 16 years. Congratulations again to the Celtics on a record-setting 18th NBA title. To the fans here in Brooklyn and watching around the world, thank you for your support throughout this season. We wouldn't be here without you. Let's get started. The first pick in the 2024 NBA Draft belongs to the Atlanta Hawks, who have 5 minutes to make their selection.
Commissioner, thank you so much. Second time the Hawks have the #1 overall pick. It's the first time they have won the lottery as they are on the clock. And I mentioned the long journey here for many of these young men here, these prospects waiting to get on stage. When people are not watching, you're in the gym, right? But for many of these prospects, the journey has featured planes, trains, and a lot of buses to get here. As we talk about global prospects, France representing, we could see potentially 3 going in the lottery. And then you have Serbia represented. You got to go all the way to Australia. A handful of UConn guys with Donovan Clingan and Steph Castle potentially going in the lottery. A pair of Kentucky teammates. That is Shepard and Dillingham. Again, this journey has been far and wide, and it will be showcased and highlighted tonight here on ABC with the Hawks on the clock. And when we look at the Hawks, guys, there's a lot of questions, right? A lot of questions. Again, they made the jump here a surprise. They won the lottery. They didn't have the worst record in the league, but then they get bounced in the play-in. They haven't had a good season according to their standards since 2021.
Well, that's the nice, beautiful person that you are, Kevin Gandhi. Let me put it very simple. They were awful. Let's get that out the way. They ended the season with 6 straight losses in the regular season. Then they lost a play-in game. You left it. Then you ended the season on a 7-game losing streak. You finished 10 games under 500, and you got an abundance of things that you need. You need a rim protector. You need a defender. You need more help from the bench on your front line. You need a playmaker, which is an indictment against Trae Young because we know he can shoot and he can play make, Bob. But somehow, some way, when you evaluate this team, these are the kind of things that are being said about them. That's what I'm looking at them, Bob, and I'm saying that's not good.
Yeah, and you know what? That made some sense. Good start for you.
Well, thank you so much.
Anything crazy?
I appreciate it.
You did say awful. I didn't know if you'd say disgusting or but you said awful.
That's an A. That's an A evaluation.
The Atlanta Hawks, like you said, 36-46, disappointing season. 29th in transition defense, 27th in defensive efficiency. One player isn't going to fix all that.
No.
Okay? So what you're thinking in this front office is, how do we start the solution? The other issue you're thinking about is, does Trae Young and Dejounte Murray, is that package of players working? And I think most people would say it's not. I think they might say it's not. So that's one part of it, Kevin and Stephen A. But then what do you do about that? Right now, I think it sounds like Atlanta's making this pick. I know they looked at maybe trading it, but there's their situation. I mean, it hasn't been under 500 with those 2 guys playing together, and it hasn't worked. So I think they draft the best player available. Problem with that is, who's that?
Yes, exactly, and we don't know. But here's what we do know. They ranked 28th defensively, 28th out of 30 teams, okay? And last but not least, do you know that it has been 63 straight seasons that the Atlanta Hawks have not played in an NBA Finals? I mean, damn, everybody goes down to the ATL, but except for evidently during basketball season. What's going on here? As many people live there in the offseason, you think some of them would join the team.
Now, there is one storyline here, too. A pair of Frenchmen that we're seeing. Zachary Richeche is right there. He's all smiles. He actually was a teammate back in the day with Victor Wembanyama. We saw a picture of Alex Sarr. Alex Sarr didn't want to work out for the Hawks.
And that's important. That's important because you're taking the #1 pick. You at least want the person that you're selecting to potentially be the face of your franchise to want to be there. And by Alex Sarr, that guy saying, I don't want to show up for working out, he's sending a message. Now, I think they take Richeche. It's all indications point there. But I'm not going to bet a lot of money on that. Because this is not a Victor Wembanyama draft. It's the furthest thing from a LeBron James, Victor Wembanyama, Shaq, and here comes the pick. So it's interesting to see.
And this is a draft that these are all foundational pieces, and you could find your gem potentially later in the draft. Again, it's not headlined by one consensus draft board. And each and every GM has a different draft board for this specific draft. So Richer could be the pick, and we will see how this plays out because he could be a foundational piece. When you look at what the Celtics did, they had 2 wings, but they needed Derek White. They needed Drew Holiday to get over the top.
If you want Richer and that's who you pick, no problem. If you're not sure that you want him, but you picked him because Sarr didn't want to come there, that's a different problem altogether.
Yeah, that's true. And again, not one guy is going to fix the issue the Atlanta Hawks have, but you do want him to help, right? And the question is, looking at Richer right there, it's a lot of pressure when you're the #1 pick, guys. We're going to remember this. The public's going to remember this. So whoever this young man that's taken is there's a stigma. We often don't remember who the #2 pick is. We always remember who the #1 pick is in any draft, in any sport. There's a stigma and there's a responsibility with that. And in this specific draft, I don't know if I want to be that guy. I mean, that's the issue.
Well, far be it for me, but I am the president of basketball.
No, I'm not ready to admit that yet.
number two overall pick. That was a Kevin Durant once upon a time.
Yes, it was.
John Morant was a #2 overall pick once upon a time. There have been some sensational #2 picks. We remember them, Bob Mike.
Yeah, okay, fine.
By the way,
okay, go ahead, Kevin. I'm not going to respond to
the #2 pick. Wait, we've got 3 hours.
Just calm down.
I
usually get like 30 seconds to go to commercial.
And keep in mind, the #2 pick a year ago was Brandon Miller, who went to Charlotte, and Richer's comp is Brandon Miller.
Okay.
A guy, now, and again, the modern NBA has changed dramatically over the last 5 to 10 years. You are seeing guys 3-and-D, long. We're talking about a guy that's 6'9", and he can guard any defender on the court. That's a big deal.
You're willing to
now.
play defense, that's a plus. Like I told you, Atlanta needs that desperately. Brandon Miller's not a bad comparison, averaged 17 points a game, didn't have a bad rookie year. He just wasn't Wembanyama. That was the crime. That was it.
Yep. Well, the commissioner is approaching, and the pick is in. Here is Adam Silver.
With the first pick in the 2024 NBA Draft, the Atlanta Hawks select Zachary Richer from Lyon, France, and France's J.L. Boron-Bress.
The 19-year-old, all smiles, with his father. His father had a 23-year playing career, longtime member of the French national team. And for the second straight year, a big man from France, here's his name first at the NBA draft. And that is Zachary Richer, joining Victor Wembanyama, taken first last year by the Spurs. And by the way, the two played together back in 2021-22 with the French club Asvel. As the Frenchman realizing his NBA dream. And keep in mind here, we're seeing a trend that continues, specifically with players who do not play college in America. They play in Europe, or they get the experience somewhere else in a professional league, and then they hear their name called at the top of the draft. With Richer, you look at his length here, and again, Euro Cup, he stood out. 23 minutes, averaging 11 points, shot 45% from 3, and very importantly, he played one of his best games in front of the Hawks brass. That, no doubt, stood out. As the Frenchman realizes his NBA dream, Richer explains what it will bring to his new team and which NBA players inspire him.
I'm Zachary Richer. I play for Bourg, and I'm from Lyon. I can bring some versatile ability in an NBA team. I can do a lot of things on the court, offensively, defensively. Whatever a team wants me to do, I can do it.
This is arguably the greatest scorer of all time. Step back, good!
I'm a big fan of Kevin Durant. I basically watched him my whole life, but I'm still watching a lot of other players like Jason Tatum, Stephen Curry, Klay Thompson, Ray Allen highlights. There is a lot of work to do, but I do whatever it takes to be great.
See the draft room in Atlanta, the celebration. And there, the Hawks, State Farm Arena. Again, first time they won the lottery. And Richer, the 7th #1 overall pick without a college background, standing by with Monica McNutt.
Zach, the second year that a Frenchman goes #1 in the NBA draft. And I saw you smiling as we took a look at the scene at State Farm Arena, your new home arena. What are you thinking about joining the Atlanta Hawks?
That's a blessing, you know. So exciting. There's a lot of feelings and emotions right now. I don't know what to say, but that's definitely special, and I'm so blessed by the years that, all the work that I've been through, and all my family is here. I'm so happy to have them here, my friends, and this is amazing. I don't know what to say. That's special.
You got it. It's very special. Congratulations, Zach. We'll send it back upstairs.
Monica, thank you so much. We take a look at the international first picks as Richeche, back-to-back years with Wembanyama as Frenchman, Bargnani and Yao Ming, of course, and we've seen the international game explode this century as it continues. Back here with Stephen A. and Bob. With Richeche, in a draft of unknowns, it has been said that he would be the safest pick at going at #1. You have that length, you have that defense here, and next up, it's the Washington Wizards. And I see your reaction here, because when you look at that team, that is a team that has a ton of holes, that is looking for anybody to turn the program around.
They have so many holes, you'd have to pay overtime to construction workers. That's that bad. It really, really is. There's nowhere to go but up. That's the flip side to all of this, Bob Myers. And I have to say that as well. I'm trying to figure out why Saul wouldn't want to work out for Atlanta, knowing that he'd probably get to Washington. So you'd rather be in the nation's capital than the ATL. Somebody explain that to me. I don't understand it. Maybe you can, as the former executive.
If I could, I wouldn't explain it to you anyway. I mean, I might tell Kevin.
There was, well, there was a belief specifically when you look at the Hawks roster. Where would Richeche, Sarr specifically fit? 7'1". Can he play there? Is there a logjam specifically at that position? The relationship with the agent, and that was one of the storylines and why he didn't work out for the Hawks. And when you look at the roster for the Wizards, I mean, Sarr, no doubt, could be the foundational piece. He would be the #1 guy.
Well, look, Alex Sarr is what you hope the NBA is going towards if you're the Washington Wizards, which is bigs that can play with other bigs, that can shoot, stretch the floor, be a rim runner, be a defensive presence. The big swing skill with this guy, Kevin and Stephen A., is can he shoot? We see what he can do here. His length is off the charts, a big standing reach, huge wingspan, 7'4" wingspan. There he is right there. He is what you see when you see the evolution of the NBA with size. This guy you hope can play a 4, you hope can play a 5. Not a great rebounder. That's the knock on this guy. His rebounding rate is not great, but I think the Wizards wanted this guy. I think they're thrilled that he's there. They didn't wait too long to put the pick in, and I think they're hoping he can be a foundational piece for them. Both these teams, when you're drafting this high, you need more than one player. Unless that player is Wembanyama or a LeBron James or Durant or one of these guys.
You need more than one player, but you need every single one of those players that you select this high to be money. You need them to be people that you can definitely rely upon, because you can't afford to make mistakes when you're a team this bad.
Well, the pick is in. Will we have back-to-back Frenchmen? Here's the commissioner.
With the second pick in the 2024 NBA Draft, the Washington Wizards select Alex Sarr from Toulouse, France, overtime elite, and Australia's Perth Wildcats of the NBL.
Alex Sarr, 19-year-old, 7'5" wingspan. Jonathan Givony, our draft guru, says he has the highest ceiling among all the prospects. An unfinished product, but elite-level talent when you can have a guy like that grow and be the foundational piece. And keep in mind, too, he played against Richeche when they were 13. They played together for 3 years on the national team. So the Frenchman standing out, especially big men with Wembanyama, Richeche, and Sarr. And again, he's a tall drink of water when you look at him.
But again, I go back to the size. I mean, it was small. A lot of people when I was with the Warriors say you guys are going small. Not necessarily, just trying to go with skill. But this guy's size in the NBA with the size you're seeing at some of these double center positions, what Minnesota's doing, Alex Sarr, you think will play early, guys, because of his defense. His offense is behind his defense.
Big man from France takes pride in protecting the rim, and Alex's big brother in the NBA is always there to give advice and help improve his game. And you see his journey. Born in France, started playing basketball at the age of 4. went to Real Madrid here as a young teenager, playing on their youth team in 2019 before moving to Spain, and then a couple years at Overtime Elite, and then want to get more experience. He played with the Perth Wildcats in Australia.
I was born in Bordeaux, France, and I grew up in Toulouse. I'm a versatile player offensively. I can push the ball, play out the short roll, heat up in shots. Defensively, I'm versatile too, a good rim protector, and I can guard most positions on the court. Being a good rim protector is more about timing than anything else and how high you can get. You gotta do the right timing so that the player shooting the ball doesn't seize you and you can sweat the shot at the best time. My brother Olivier, he's a two-way on the Thunder right now. Got a big influence on me. We talk every day. That's why I love him. You know, he'll never tell me that I'm great or that I'm good. There's always something to improve.
That's what big brothers do. And there he is with his big brother, 6 years older, currently a two-way deal with Oklahoma City, played 46 games with the Thunder over the last 3 seasons, and Monica McNutt is with the brother, Sar.
Well, congratulations, Alex. This is just the second time, or the third time, excuse me, that the draft's top 2 picks have not had college experience. How has France prepared you for a career in the NBA?
Yeah, I mean, you know, I think it's just all over, you know, everywhere I played, you know, like he just built me for this moment.
Your brother, obviously a big part of your basketball inspiration. What has he shared with you about playing in this league?
I mean, you know, he shared a lot with me, you know, like everything I've learned is through him, and he gave me all his knowledge, and, you know, till this day, it's really special to have someone like him in my corner.
I hear you getting a little choked up. Tell me why.
Because, you know, like, I went to his draft, and, you know, I know how it feels to go out undrafted, you know, and for me to be able to be a top pick now is, you know, it's really special.
It is special. Alex, enjoy tonight. Congratulations on your next chapter.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Monica, thank you so much. What an incredible moment for the Sar family. And what's it say about French basketball? I mean, Tony Parker leading the way from the start.
Well, they're better at sharing their emotions than us Americans. That's for sure.
That's true. I got to roll. I'm going to call General Hospital and talk to them about
No. We're not talking about that. We're keeping that out of everything. Very impressive, though. Look at these statistics. Yeah. I mean, top 10 draft picks. Look, not all those guys. Some of these guys are going to work out, but some of them haven't worked out and may not.
He can play. He defends. Obviously, this was the worst defense in basketball last year, and so he's going to be an added plus. Also, dead last in allowing 16.4 second chance points. That led the league as well. We've got to pay attention to all of those things when we're looking at the squad right now. I think this guy's going to be a welcomed addition because his focus is going to be on improving that defense for the Washington Wizards, and I think it'll go a long way for a 15 and 60-17.
There's only one way but up when you're talking about the Wizards, across the board, right?
Yeah, look, I'm looking at some of this stuff. It's not pretty. They haven't won 50 games since 1979.
Right. Yeah.
Right. You know, how old were you then? Were you
what? 19 what?
79?
I was 11. I was 11 going on 12. You know what I'm saying? Little older than you, Bob.
No, look, Alex Sar, many people thought should be the #1 pick.
Yeah.
And he did not work out for the Atlanta Hawks. But question marks, 27% from 3.
Yeah.
Shooting stroke is not finished by any stretch. But they think he can guard every position, and that gets you on the floor and his defensive presence. And, you know, it looks like he's got some experience being around the NBA with his brother and just being around basketball a long time. And so I think the Wizards wanted this guy, and they got their guy, and we'll see how he does.
Plenty of people in the league that can't shoot. And you know what you do when you find somebody that can't shoot? Don't let them shoot. You're there to play defense. Yeah. Defense and rebound and pass the ball.
Okay, but if he can't shoot, I think they'll regret the pick. That's all I'm saying.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, he's got it. Pick a guy too.
Okay.
All right. Okay.
Hey, listen, the Houston Rockets are on the clock right now, and the pick is in. Let's go to the commissioner.
With the 3rd pick in the 2024 NBA Draft, the Houston Rockets select Reed Sheppard from the University of Kentucky.
I mean, no one had a bigger rise in the past year on NBA draft boards than Reed Sheppard. He came into Kentucky a year ago as a legacy pick. Father Jeff, 2-time national champ, Final Four most outstanding player in 1998. He was expected to be there as that guard, maybe 3-4 years in Lexington. Oh no, he hears his name called third overall to the Houston Rockets because this young man can shoot everywhere on the basketball floor.
Yes, he can. This brother's a sharpshooter, 54% shooting from the field, 52% from three-point range. That's a marksman right there. And Lord knows that the Houston Rockets need it. 19-game improvement, deserves all the credit in the world, Ime Udoka and his staff, for what they were able to do. But they clearly would needed shooters. And this dude right here, he's special. He's a special marksman. I love it. I love the pick.
And he has a 42-inch vertical. He can jump out of the gym. Highest drafted Kentucky player since Karl Anthony Towns in 2015. A true blue blood. He's leaving a big blue nation. I'll always respect the path that was paved for him by his family.
Mom and Dad both played at Kentucky. Mom was a great player, and Dad was as well. He won 2 national championships. Growing up and being able to talk to them and learn from them was really nice and really special for me.
Sheppard rising!
When I look at players, I don't try and just pick one. Let's go Devin Booker, the way that he gets to his mid-range. Chris Paul, the way he controls the game. He plays at his pace. You know, Steph Curry, how he can pass and move so well without the ball. And, you know, Kobe Bryant, the way he looked at the game mentally. You know, no one was going to beat him. I can shoot the ball a little bit, and I'm going to create for my teammates. I'm going to try and do the right basketball play no matter what it is. As long as we're winning, I'm happy.
No reaction there, Ime Udoka and the Houston Rockets. All smiles, and you see Reed Sheppard feeling really good. I got his mom, Stacy, SEC Freshman of the Year, and Monica McNutt is with the family.
Sheppard family. Reed, a few minutes ago you told me you were a little bit nervous. How are you feeling now?
No more nerves. I'm good. I'm super excited. This is awesome, unbelievable. My mom's birthday today, so it's going to be a great night. It already is a great night, so it's awesome. I'm super thankful.
Happy birthday to you, Stacey. You guys have been a part of every milestone of his life so far. As parents who have been a part of this journey, what are you feeling tonight?
Just so thankful, overwhelmed with appreciation, so proud of Reed, and God's been so good to our family. We're so glad to be here.
We're just blessed and thankful to be here and enjoying with my family. We've got 75 people, family and friends that are here, and get to celebrate with them, so it's an unbelievable day.
It is quite special. Now, Reed, to the basketball of it all, folks are excited about your ability to shoot the ball, but you're going to the NBA where the defenders are even better. What are the Houston Rockets getting in terms of a guy that's going to make sure you can find a way to shoot the ball?
Yeah, just a guy going in, he's looking to learn. You know, he's going to do whatever it takes to win. He's going to, if it's not making threes right away, that's getting teammates involved, whatever it takes to win and be on the court, I'm going to do whatever makes the team better.
Congratulations, Reed. Congratulations, Mom, Jeff, and Stacey.
Young man had a fantastic birthday week. He turned 20 on Monday, and he's perfect for the NBA when you talk about catch and shoot.
Well, look, only one issue with Reed Sheppard, and I don't want to be critical. It's his size. That's it. It's it. He's just a shorter shooting guard. And the question is, can he handle the ball a little bit, maybe become a point guard? But it's not just the shooting, Kevin and Stephen A. It's his steal rate, block rate. He's got one of the best steals in the college game, and maybe in any game. Analytically, people love this guy. He was at the top of the analytics boards, not just for the high percentage shooting, but for his defensive efforts on blocks and steals and things like that. He can finish at the paint, and that's the thing he's going to get on the floor doing. His shot is so good. It reminds me of a Klay Thompson. Now he's smaller. It's a big difference between 6'7" and 6'2" in the NBA. A huge difference, and he's not super long. But I love the pick for the Rockets. They need shooting. Every team needs shooting.
I completely agree with Bob Myers, which is a rarity.
Yeah. And can we stop the show? I'm ready to go. I'm done. At 8:28, I'm out of here.
Of his evaluation, it was right on point. Let's add this. The Houston Rockets, I think it was like 34.7% from three-point range. That ranked 28th in the NBA, okay? Third worst in the NBA. You got to get some shooters. You got to have people that can put the ball in the hole. And here's the one thing that I was thinking, you're absolutely right. Big difference between 6'7", 6'1". But Fred VanVleet ain't the tallest dude in the world. And he is in Houston making noise, just like he was in Toronto making noise and helping them capture a championship. You would like to have more height, but he has proven you don't need it in order to be successful on the most elite level in basketball, which is the National Basketball Association. I love this kid, Reed Sheppard. He's a gamer. He's a marksman. When you can shoot like that, a great coach, and I do mean a great coach, like Ime Udoka will find a way to utilize this kid. I like this pick.
By the way, it's not just the shooting. He's a phenomenal passer, and the Kentucky team loved him as a teammate. In transition, he always found the right guy and can anticipate. I think we all talked about this before the broadcast. I mean, he went number 3, but if he was 6'4", 6'5", he'd be the #1 pick.
I think so.
And look, I think he surprised himself and the Kentucky, or the whole program. They thought he'd be a 3-4 year guy. He came in and was so good and so efficient. It wasn't just the numbers, it was the efficiency of the numbers. But if your mom and dad play Kentucky basketball, don't you automatically have to be good at basketball?
I would say so.
If you did it, it'd be a
it's not
problem.
bad when both mom and dad can say, get it together.
Pick is in for the Spurs at number 4. Let's go to the commissioner right now.
With the 4th pick in the 2024 NBA Draft, the San Antonio Spurs select Stephon Castle from the University of Connecticut.
The 2024 Big East Freshman of the Year. A unanimous pick. You see Dan Hurley right there. As UConn celebrating their 2nd national championship in a row. Led the Big East as a freshman in points, rebounds, and assists. Big glue guy here for the national champs. He was fantastic on defense. Danny asked him to do something. He said, yes, I'll do it, regardless of the situation.
And a winner, right? And the guy has shown he's going to help you win basketball games. That sounds like a lazy take, but at the same time, we saw this guy. I like people in the draft that have already won. And he was a huge part, and he probably deferred offensively. If you want to knock on him, it's like, is he a secondary playmaker? He said he could play some point guard. Bottom line is, this guy's going to play. And I love the pick for the San Antonio Spurs, specifically around Wembanyama. They're building a team, and Wembanyama was so good last year. They got a guy in Castle, because he's so good defensively, you can play him right away.
First things first, got to make a correction. That was the Spurs numbers on the three-point shooting I gave about Houston. My apologies. I messed up as president.
No, I knew it. I just didn't say anything because you're not the president.
You got a man up. But let me say this. Castle, I'm sorry about that. Castle's a big guard. You know what, can defend multiple positions. You want that size from the guard spot. I like this pick.
The 2-time national champs game, ready for the NBA, but having family support to keep his feet planted firmly on the ground is what he truly appreciates.
My passing ability, you know, my sense of when to make the right pass. Another one would be probably defense. I feel like I take a lot of pride in that. Coming into UConn, when we first got there, they made us write down a lot of goals. One of them was just being a winner, and I feel like we achieved that to the max. My parents, I would say they're like no other. They always tell me what, you know, I need to hear and not what I want to hear. Even when I went back home, having a good year, I have a lot of buzz with my name. They're still being parents to me. They're not treating me like I'm on some pedestal. They still make me take out the trash, wash the dishes, you know, just keeping me humble, keeping me grounded. I feel like that was something that I needed.
Yeah, do what? See some UConn players in the top 5. We could see Donovan Clingan joining this group. Castle, the last time we saw a top 5 player from Storrs go, Hasheem Thabeet, who went 2nd overall 15 years ago. And here is Monica with the new Spur.
Stephon, congratulations. All right, we're taking a deep breath. You're headed to San Antonio to play with this guy, Victor Wembanyama. You may have heard of him. But when you think of the opportunity that you now have to add your championship pedigree to this organization, what are they getting?
I mean, they're obviously getting a winner. You know, I learned how to win last year, so I'm coming in with that kind of mindset. And, you know, just to have a teammate like that next to you, I feel like it opens up the floor so much for you to grow and expand your game. So, you know, I just can't wait to get out there.
Coach Hurley, this young man was the first All-American, McDonald's All-American commit you got at UConn. And I heard you let out a woo when you got up here. Tell me what's going on.
Yeah, well, he played like our first McDonald's, man. This guy, when you look at fit right there, the Spurs value winning. They value workers. They value championships. And this is just the perfect player for them to draft. For what they do with that organization, this guy's just scratching the surface.
Outstanding stuff. Stephon, congratulations.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Well, we may see, thank you, Monica, Danny Hurley back on that stage in a matter of minutes with Donovan Clingan. UConn teammate there, of course, for Stefan Castle. He chose UConn to get his butt kicked. One of those humbling kind of guys that I want to learn. So we could see 2 UConn players going in this lottery. We could see 2 Kentucky players going in this lottery. And it's very weird to say the head coach of Arkansas joins us, John Calipari, who was the head coach of Reed Sheppard. And potentially we'll see Rob Dillingham and his name called later on. Well, Reed Sheppard, his journey here, of course, to be the 3rd overall pick. We talked about it. Legacy guy. His father, a star, of course, 20 years ago. And then the rise. And his mother, yes.
Mother was a really good basketball player.
And you see the genes out there on the field. When did you know you had a special player here in Reed?
You know, I knew he was good. But then all of a sudden we start playing the games. And you see his mindset. Unbelievable teammate. A drive, lived in the gym, improved his shooting to the point that he's one of the best in the country. His ability to make plays, to block threes, to steal balls, he just does all that stuff, but he's a culture guy too.
How do you think that'll translate to the NBA level, considering the talent that you know exists on that level?
Well, I think he's in a great place in Houston. You know, Coach, he's raised the bar, their culture and what they have. I think what will happen is, Stephen A., the players are going to love playing with him. If you'll run, you'll get the ball now. As you turn, it'll be in your hands. He'll also stretch the court because of the way he shoots the ball. Decision-making, all that kind of stuff. He's going to make a difference. And again, he's a young player. You know, stuff doesn't happen overnight. But you'll see he'll be a difference maker in that league.
Coach, what does he do that we don't know? I mean, can he handle the ball more than we know? What did you see in practice that maybe we didn't see in the game?
Let me say off the court, our managers, he did an NIL deal so each manager could make $2,000.
Yeah, Stephen A., can you do something for me?
Yeah, Stephen A.
all this money.
How about for all of us?
Give me some.
I'm kind of broke right now.
Yeah, you're kind of broke right now. This guy. I knew you when you were broke. It ain't now.
No, it's not now. Not now.
Hey, by the way, too, Reed was a guy that wasn't cracking the starting lineup as well as Rob Dillingham. What do you have to crack the starting lineup to be a guard at Kentucky?
And you know, Devin Booker still hits me in the head. What about me? I got 70 in an NBA game. Right. But I've had lottery picks score 9 points in 6. If you bring a group together like that and they win, it doesn't matter. They'll all eat.
And Dillingham's one of those guys who's got some flair, sizzle. I mean, Jonathan Givony says he could be the electric guard that we see like John Morant in the NBA. What do you see?
I even go back to Stephen A. and AI.
Oh,
he got his little AI in him.
Yeah.
And he also, like AI, has the ultimate belief in himself.
Yeah.
So
he could say that we were in Philly together.
That's right.
Yes, absolutely. Hey, appreciate the time.
I appreciate it, guys. Appreciate it.
The pick is in. It's the Detroit Pistons who are on the clock. Let's go to the commissioner, Adam Silver. Hold on for a second. Stand by. We're going to wait a little bit here.
Let's talk about Iverson.
Listen,
give me some stories.
If we need to talk about Allen Iverson, this is the way to do it.
Some Iverson
we will go to the grave with some of those stories.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
And now we're saved by the commissioner. Here is Adam Silver.
With the 5th pick in the 2024 NBA Draft, the Detroit Pistons select Ron Holland II from Dallas, Texas, and the NBA G League's team Ignite.
We're talking about a young man, the 5th top 10 pick from the G League Ignite, and Ron Holland. When you look at his frame and all the things he could do, he's an attacker, an 18-year-old attacker who loves to finish. And of course, he has a thing for the flair. And the Pistons right now, a team that is looking for a head coach after dismissing Monty Williams, and they owe him $65 million after just 1 season. Holland sees himself as an energetic leader on the court and likes to compare himself to one of the players that calls this building home.
huge energy guy. He can do anything on the floor. Capable shooter, but like a huge leader on the core of this team, doing whatever it takes to win. I can compare my style to Mikal Bridges. When he first hit the league, he was a 3-and-D guy, guarding the best player on the floor every single night. I would say Jaden McDaniels because the amount of energy and the fuse he brings on defense. I love to speak and I love to get my guys going. You know what time it is? If I see an opening and I can go dunk the ball and create energy for my team and the fan base, I'm finna go tear the rim down.
C. Holland right there, again, part of the G League Ignite. And I mentioned that he likened himself to a guy that called this place home. That was up until last night as Bridges is going from Brooklyn
Where's he going?
To Madison Square Garden. Oh, Bob, we've got plenty of time. We will talk about the Knicks.
Yes.
Matter of
No, we don't.
But you see Scoot Henderson a year ago, 3rd overall, going to the Blazers. And standing by right now with the new Piston, Ron Holland, is Monica McNutt.
Ryan, congratulations. The first thing in your feature is your energy. That's also the first thing that jumps off the page. Where does that come from in terms of how you approach the game?
I think that comes from my family. Growing up, I grew up around a competitive family, super competitive with my uncle's side. Really just a lot of competing with anything when it comes to playing basketball, going in the street to race, and I think that was built into my family and that was instilled in me, and then that has carried me throughout my whole journey.
So I got to take a little bit of a sidebar, Ron, because as we were preparing for this, you're 18. Your favorite artist is Teddy Pendergrass?
Yes, ma'am.
Tell me more.
Some people say I have an old soul, but I get it from, listening to all the music my parents listened to growing up. I really enjoyed listening to it, and then one day I just threw it on in the workout, and it was history from there.
Well, the Pistons locker room better debate whether you could be the DJ or not. Congratulations, Ron.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Monica, thank you. If you're listening to Teddy working out, hey, Motown's the perfect destination for you next, right? We'll be back with much more of the NBA Draft 2024 presented by State Farm after these messages.
NBA Draft 2024 is presented by State Farm. Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there.
Sleeping again, say it no more. This is a rude awakening, kicking the door. Back and I'm better than ever before. Don't get it mistaken, I'm ready for war. I see the option, I'm up in the score. I get your body, then jump in the course. Follow the core and then back to the morgue. Take the sheet over the...
Welcome back to the NBA Draft 2024 here at the Barclays Center. Kevin Negandhi alongside Stephen A. Smith and Bob Myers. We've got 5 picks in. Currently, the Charlotte Hornets are on the clock with the 6th pick. New head coach and Charles Lee, the ex-Celtic assistant. So he celebrates a title, and now he gets the opportunity to pick at 6 overall. A team that won 21 games, and honestly, the storyline is, can they stay healthy? LaMelo Ball, big storyline, could not stay healthy this season. And a team that is in transition. He's only played 184 to 318 games since being drafted. And then you see Brandon Miller, last year's 2nd pick overall, averaging 17 points, just 2nd behind Victor Wembanyama. And there is the new head coach of the Charlotte Hornets in Charles Lee. The pick is in, so we'll get your thoughts about this pick and this team in a moment. Let's go to the commissioner, Adam Silver.
With the 6th pick in the 2024 NBA Draft, the Charlotte Hornets select Tidjane Salaün from Cholet, France.
Tidjane Salaün, the 3rd Frenchman taken in tonight's draft, and both his parents played basketball. His mom was a coach. He made his pro debut at the age of 16 back in 2021. You look at the size, just under 6'9", 217 pounds. Again, this is the modern NBA, a stretch player. Can you play defense? Can you shoot the 3?
Yeah, I mean, this guy's a high upside guy, 32 from 3, but 81.5 from the line. Free throw shooting percentage is very predictive of how well you can shoot the 3 in the NBA. So it's a good indicator for him, but I think he plays early, Kevin and Stephen A., from his defense. But fascinating, if you're ever talking about the growth of this game internationally, 3 French players now in the top 6 of the draft. It's hard to believe. And the surprise, I got 2 surprises so far. Clingan hasn't been picked. Yes. Surprising. And trades. I thought there'd be a trade by now. I really did. But it's going chalk right now, and you're seeing guys like this, but big upside play here for the Charlotte team, who's got a new owner, new GM, and new coach.
Go ahead. Tijan brings an all-round game to the league. Hopes in the future he'll be mentioned as one of France's all-time greats.
My name is Tijan Salin, and I come from France. Bring a lot of intensity, can bring my versatility, a lot of fire on the court. I can defend on the post 1 to the 5. I can shoot everywhere. 5, Victor. 4, Batum. 3, me on the future. 2, Evan Fournier. And 1, Tony Parker.
All led by Tony Parker and what he did a couple decades ago with the Spurs, and you see Salon there. A guy who's got a wingspan of 7'2", Monica McNutt, standing by.
Tijan, 2 years ago, you saw NBA player Kyle Kuzma, and you told him you would see him in 2 years. You're here. How does it feel?
It's crazy. That's amazing to be here. It's too much for me. And like I said, see you, Kuzma. See you.
Who would you like to thank? Who would you like to say thank you to?
To my family, my agent, my teammates, Cholet Basket, my family. So yeah, so happy. Thank you.
Congratulations, Tijan.
Thank you, thank you.
Monica, thank you so much. As a Philly guy, I love seeing this. He loves the song Eye of the Tiger because of the Rocky mindset.
Yeah.
And you know what? Right now, France is dominating when you see who is taken. And how about this Wemby weighing in? Last year's #1 overall pick, a sense of pride here.
A vote of confidence from Wembanyama never hurts because he's the real deal. Make no mistake about that. I hope when you talk about eye of the tiger and the bite, he's gonna need a lot of it in Charlotte. I mean, ain't too much of that going on right now. 21-61 on the season last year. Struggled a lot. Had about the 3rd most games missed due to injuries and what have you. So many injuries. They've got to get it together. They were building. They got a new coach. They're going in the right direction. But LaMelo Ball has got to get on the court and be healthy. That's going to go a long way. I think he's going to help the team. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, look, I think it's injuries, 8 straight seasons without a playoff berth. But new ownership, new GM, new coach. So it's a clean slate there in Charlotte now. And Brandon Miller had a great rookie campaign. LaMelo Ball, all-star capabilities. And now this pick right here. So you build through youth. They're trying to build through the draft. It's probably one way to go. I don't view Charlotte right now as a free agent destination. That's maybe down the line. That's something they get into. But they're building the right way. They just got to nail these picks. That's all. And they've done a good job so far. They've done a good job with Ball and now with Miller.
For them, it's incredibly pivotal that they've got to produce through the draft, because how many free agents are going to be able to come to the small market? You're not going to necessarily have the money. You're not going to necessarily want to spend.
Yeah, it's like what the Knicks used to be like. Same thing.
You got to go there.
What do you mean?
Why you got to go there? That's
I don't know. I just thought about it.
Listen.
Felt like
don't hate on orange and blue skies, baby.
Like
times, better times.
Good time.
Hey, we're not here to talk about the past. We're not here to talk about the past.
We will talk about the Knicks in a moment. How about the Portland Trailblazers? The pick is in. Here's the commissioner.
With the 7th pick in the 2024 NBA Draft, the Portland Trailblazers select Donovan Clingan from the University of Connecticut.
The 2-time national champ. 2024 All Big East honorable mention. Talk about a big man, and 20 years ago, he's a top 2 pick. The way the game has changed dramatically, defensively, he's your guy in the middle, and we knew if he was around with Portland at 7, he wasn't going to go further. He wasn't going to slide down as Portland looks for a big man defensively.
Like him a lot. He's a champion. Made a big-time contribution. We know this about him. Where he's going, 29th ranked offense in the NBA, worst 3-point shooting team in the NBA. They had other needs. I get it. I understand it. I just don't know if this is the greatest situation.
In memory of Donovan's late mom, Stacy, Clingan paid tribute to her with not only the numbers on his chest, but his play on the court.
I wear number 32 because of my mom. My mom passed away to cancer when I was in 8th grade. She wore 32 as a basketball player. I wore 23 before that, and then, when she passed, I switched over to 32 in a way to represent her and feel a connection to her while I'm playing on that floor. In 8th grade, when I lost my mom, I wanted to, find a way to make her proud, to find a way to represent her. Obviously that was, go playing college basketball at the Division I level and, hopefully pursuing my NBA dream. But, I did not expect to go to UConn and win 2 national titles, and it just really made all the hard work, finally feel like it paid off.
See him point up when he heard his name, remembering his mom, Stacy, who passed away of breast cancer in March of 2018. He's viewed as a safe pick here because you know what you're going to get. You're going to get a guy that it's all about the team, and he's standing by right now with Monica McNutt.
Donovan, I know tonight is huge for you. You've got a special design in this jacket. What are you feeling from your mom tonight?
Feeling everything. I know she's super proud of me. I know she's smiling down. This is everything I've worked for my entire life, and just to hear my name called is, it don't feel real. Like you said, I got my mama over here on my side at all times. She's looking down at me, she's smiling, I know she's proud.
All right, so you've been at the top of the college basketball world 2 times over now. You're starting over as a rookie, an organization that is building. What are you going to do to stay motivated and maintain the work ethic that has gotten you here?
Man, I just want to win. I just want to keep winning. I'm never going to be satisfied for where I've been. So I'm just going to keep going. I'm going to keep trying to get better. I'm going to keep learning, and I'm just going to try to be the best player I can every day.
I have no doubt you'll be able to do that, Donovan. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Young man is a phenomenal role model for people, not just in the Bristol, Connecticut, and the state of Connecticut, but just anybody who loves to play basketball. As we got a closer look at the jacket inside as he remembers his mom, Stacy. I talked to Danny Hurley a couple days ago. He got emotional talking about him. He said he got an NIL deal. He wanted to make sure his teammates got the money and that he could share it. I mean, there is Dan Hurley right now celebrating. Second time UConn had multiple top 10 picks. The last time, 20 years ago, with Okafor and Gordon. There is Klingen's dad, of course, Bill, all smiles as well, very proud of his son. By the way, backstory with this young man. He was a 7-footer in high school in Bristol, right? He would still landscape, and he would still shovel snow at like 1 in the morning and then make his workouts at 5:30 a.m. each and every day.
Would you do that? Well, yeah, of course I would do stuff like that. I didn't grow up with a silver spoon. I was out there mowing the lawn, doing what I had to do. No, listen, but here's the thing, until I was interrupted. Kevin, it's all part of the story, right? I mean, most people that are successful have a story, and most times the story's hard. And he has had a very difficult journey to get here, whether it was what you alluded to, losing a mother at that time in your life. That's tragic. And to see how he's honoring her is it's a tremendous tribute. And I think that he is in a spot where he's going to play a lot. And I heard what Stephen A. said. That team still needs a lot of help. But Klingen has proved he can block shots. He's a great rebounder. Talking to people in the workouts, they said his shot is better than people think, the mechanics. But no, he looks like a guy, I'm just going to make an assumption here, that people want to play with. He sounds like a good teammate. He sounds like a winner. And those are all parts of succeeding in the NBA. Those are all parts of winning. And I think this guy's already shown he's got 2 championships. He knows how to win.
And he won a state high school championship to add to that.
I lost my mom at age 49, battle of cancer. And you deal with that and you live with that every day of your life. You don't.
Hey, can I interrupt? I just lost my mom at 49. Same thing.
Wow.
A couple weeks ago. Yeah. No,
it's devastating.
Yeah.
But what happens is, to be that young and to go out there and to be a part of the program, it doesn't just speak to him. It speaks to the program. It speaks to Danny Hurley. There's something inside of you that just drives you to be the very, very best you can be, because the person that supported you the most unconditionally, you're swearing to them and yourself you'll never let them down. And so from a character perspective, there's nothing to question about this guy. His game is a lot of pluses. I'm just looking at Portland in terms of what their needs are, and I'm saying you had other needs, but obviously there's nothing to sneeze at when it comes to this guy, no doubt about it.
And you nailed it with moms. I lost my mom when I was 47 2 years ago. It never leaves you. It's always
never,
there.
Yeah, never.
And he's carrying his mom's spirit tonight. And Stacey is looking down with a smile as he is, of course, going to Portland to start his career in the NBA. And on the clock right now are the Spurs. Again, they picked at number 4. They went with Steph Castle, a guy that can play a combo. He believes he can play point guard. We could see him with his size at 6'6", a great defender. He can play the shooting guard. Victor Wembanyama made sure this team is all about win now mode, right, Bob? When you look at this team, they're not rebuilding.
No, we knew he was going to be good, right? I think we all knew he was going to be good. He was so good that I think in that front office we just saw, they just said, oh boy, we don't need to be patient. Let's push forward. And I think with a guy like Castle, and now having an opportunity to get another player here. And by the way, I'll tell you something else.
Okay.
People want to play with Victor Wembanyama.
Yes.
And you know how important
that's
that
where
is?
I was going.
And that's because I knew you were going. You were going there. Until I said it. You wouldn't have said that.
The pick is in.
You wouldn't have said
Let's
that.
go to the commissioner.
With the 8th pick in the 2024 NBA Draft, the San Antonio Spurs select Rob Dillingham from the University of Kentucky.
They go for the speed at guard. And we just had John Calipari on the set, and you guys got in an interesting conversation when we talk about player comp, and he brought up Allen Iverson.
Yeah. And it's not an accident. The aggression, the athletic ability, the ability to create shots for others, because you've got that kind of athleticism and quickness and what have you that you bring it to the table. You're looking out for Wembanyama when you do this, because you don't want to just hand him the ball and say, find a way to rescue us from the perimeter, from inside, from outside the three-point line, because we don't have anybody else that can do it. No, with this kid, they'll probably have somebody that can do it. I like him a lot.
And he's going to score. I mean, and we look at that. I know, Stephen, that you love scoring.
Yes.
It's a huge part of obviously winning, but there's some guys that just know how to score. Some people have used Lou Williams. I had not heard Iverson until Coach Cal brought that up. But if they're mentioning Allen Iverson in the same breath as a guy like this, well, there's no doubt that guy can score. This guy can score. And I think he fits what the Spurs are trying to do, which is get younger, get more talent.
Rob details how his brother Denzel had a huge impact on his basketball career and gives us a personal scouting report.
My brother, he was like my greatest mentor, because he started with just giving me confidence, instilling confidence in me, and understanding like that you have an edge on people with your mindset. I don't really model my game after a certain player. I just watch all the great point guards in the past and try to add all into one and see what works best for me. There was a lot of point guards copy their moves. Steve Nash, you would see him dribble under the baseline, keep the ball alive, and then make a pass. So really just keeping the ball alive. That's the scouting report. Shooter, playmaker, all-around team leader.
Nighttime, Kentucky has multiple lottery picks in a draft, most by any college, as Dillingham joins Reed Sheppard in this lottery representing the Wildcats. And right now, Rob is with Monica McNutt.
Rob, no pressure, but Coach Cal was on set with our guys, and he brought up the name Allen Iverson. And I want you to take a look at this list of notable Kentucky Wildcat guards, okay? All these guys down here at the bottom: Emmanuel Quickley, Tyrese Maxey, Tyler Hero, Devin Booker. They're on the screen for the folks at home. How can you step into that legacy and make an impact now that you're going to the Spurs following that tradition?
I feel like, honestly, like, Coach Cal puts you through a situation where it's hard to withstand, and we've been through it, so I feel like we have a different type of heart in us. So I feel like at any level we're going to succeed no matter what it takes.
It's a special night, and obviously there's something in you in terms of your heart. But the folks that have helped you get here, your family, your coaches, what do you say to them tonight?
I just want to thank them for everything, because without them I wouldn't be here, and they know that for sure. So
congratulations.
Thank you.
Monica, thank you so much. You know, he came off the bench in all but one game this year, and he's sixth man of the year in the SEC.
15 points a game in 23 minutes per game. That's something special to behold. Clearly, he's coming off the bench. He's looking to make things happen, okay? You bring up Allen Iverson, I can bring up the microwave, Vinnie Johnson back there, looking for your shot. I'm just talking about it in that context. But in the end, 44% shooting from three-point range. Got to pay attention to that as well. Listen, the kid's got talent. He wants it. Go get it.
Well, 80% from the line, too. I keep bringing that up. It shows he's a good shooter. I mean, you don't shoot 80% from the free throw line, 44 from 3, and that does translate. He made an interesting comment talking about Coach Calipari. When I was scouting, you sit behind that Kentucky bench or anywhere near it, you see what Coach Cal asks of his players. And these guys have, no NBA coach is going to talk to them the way Coach Calipari does. Yes. So when Dillingham says he's been through some stuff and some toughness with Maxey and all these guys that you talk about that went through that program and succeeded in the NBA quickly, all these guys go down the list, he's telling you something like, I know how to work and I know how to persevere. And he came off the bench and was fantastic.
6'1", 164 pounds. He added 17 pounds of muscle before the season. Got that, still maintains that blazing speed. Shot 44% from 3. And again, Jonathan Givony, our NBA draft guru, calls him the most electric player in the draft. And now there's some sizzle here with the Spurs. You got the defensive guy in Castle, and you got Dillingham with the speed.
Keep in mind the highlights. Even as you saw the plays, look at the attitude that came with the plays. The reason why that's important, that's what we saw from Wembanyama that we didn't know too much about. I mean, this dude, when he went up, remember when he went up against the Greek freak, Giannis Antetokounmpo? Remember how they went at each other? I mean, it was something special to behold. To have a player whose personality mirrors that is a big, big deal. That's what you want with Wembanyama.
Grizzlies on the clock. The pick is in. Here's the commissioner.
With the 9th pick in the 2024 NBA Draft, the Memphis Grizzlies select Zach Edey from Toronto and Purdue University.
He wasn't ranked out of high school. And we're talking about an unbelievable jump and rise over the last 4 years with Zach Edey. Born in Canada, 7'4", tallest player in Big Ten history, nicknamed the Big Maple. And keep in mind, he's only played basketball for 6 years. Where he found basketball as a sport was after playing hockey and baseball, and then he rose to a 2-time National Player of the Year and 2-time Big Ten Player of the Year. Once again, wasn't ranked coming out of high school, and he's only 20, just think about this. 20 years ago, there's no question he's the #1 pick in the draft when you talk about size and ability and the chance to fill it up.
Yeah, but we're in 2024. I mean, 20 years ago, Stephen A was probably a good-looking guy, right? You think maybe?
I actually think I look better now than
better now.
But that's a different. I digress. Go ahead.
No, but look, the NBA's changed, and I want to hear what Zach Edey has to say. We'll get to our thoughts on it.
The 2-time National Player of the Year knows his experience in other sports got him ready to dominate on the hardwood.
I played baseball, hockey growing up.
Zach knows hockey.
Zach knows baseball.
I think baseball really helped me just get like that touch, kind of get that feel for the game and just feel like helped me really in that transition. And then hockey, I think you get strong legs, you get a good base from hockey. And both those sports just kind of helped me stay active as a kid and stay athletic and work with my body.
Just look at the jump, guys, through his career. As a freshman, learning the game, 9 points, 4 rebounds, and then you see what he did his junior year when he was the National Player of the Year, and then his senior year came back. I mean, 25 points and 12 rebounds. And by the way, I mean, you talk about a guy that was constantly fouled. He went to the free throw line 436 times.
Yeah, he's an interest. This is the most surprising pick so far for me of the draft. I just didn't see him going this high.
What do you think of the fit though with the Grizzlies?
Well, I'll tell you why I like the fit with the Grizzlies. Jaren Jackson needs a 5 next to him. That's why. They tried to play Jaren Jackson. Steve Kerr tried to play him at the 5 in the USA games, and the Memphis tried to play him at the 5 this year. He missed Steven Adams quite a bit, and so did that team. So I think what Memphis is saying here is this is our next Steven Adams. And I think that's okay. That's fine. Zach Edey's one of the eye of the beholder guys. I did think he was going to be a first-round pick. Some analytical models have him way high, and some analytical models say you have to defend in space. This isn't college. His steal rate was so low. Can he move his feet? Things like that. So I can't wait. I'm going to enjoy watching him play because it's a fascinating storyline how he fits into the NBA.
Here's what we got to monitor. It's a good pick for the Memphis Grizzlies for this reason. The 4 previous seasons before last year, they were big time with points in the paint. Last season, they were dead last. John Moran only played 9 games. Yeah. He'll be back. You know he's the focal point, okay? But you need a big to give you some kind of presence. and can generate some points in the paint at some point, okay? That's why you make this pick. I totally understand it. I agree with you. I'm surprised he went this high, but I totally understand why they did it, because they gave you – Jaren Jackson needs help down there, no doubt about it.
He's got incredible hands. He's a great screen guy, so we will see how that plays with the Grizzlies. Right now, the pick is in for the Jazz. Here's the commissioner.
With the 10th pick in the 2024 NBA Draft, the Utah Jazz select Cody Williams from the University of Colorado.
Cody Williams, 2 years ago, older brother Jalen was selected 12th overall by the Thunder. He said that was his favorite basketball memory. Now he gets the opportunity to create his own memory. The 19-year-old freshman, missed 13 games due to injury. Had a strong start his freshman year, has the size and has the handle. And again, his favorite basketball memory is his brother's draft night. Well, 2 years later, he's now walking up on the stage, a higher pick than his brother Jalen.
Which is surprising. Jalen was fantastic in college. And Cody's drafting on potential, basically. They're drafting him on potential. He's a great processor of the game. But he had some games where you didn't see him as much out there. So he's in a potential, he's an upside pick. Some people say he's one of the most skilled players in the draft. By the way, can we have a handshake? Like, you just see that handshake those brothers have?
Impressive.
So can we get something like that?
We got to work on our brother. We got to work on that brotherhood. I don't know if you got the.
I don't think I do. I don't think I got it. I don't think I got it.
Let's try right now. We got to work on it. Practice.
We can do it. Beautiful moment between those two guys. America, you missed the beautiful moment between these two guys going back and forth as we see Cody Williams, a Utah Jazz.
My dad and my brother, they were kind of people that spent the most amount of time in the gym with me. They were with me day in and day out, kind of molded me to the player I am today. My brother is Jalen Williams, and he plays for the Oklahoma City Thunder.
Williams turns the court. Beverly and Henderson home.
We actually play very different. For him, it's kind of using his shoulders, using his lower body to kind of move people out the way in order to get into, a pull-up or get into a step back.
A beautiful move by Cody Williams.
My game's more kind of smooth, silky, just in terms of I kind of use my length and athleticism to move around defenders, kind of use my length and height to finish over them.
So Cody's going to Utah, Jalen at Oklahoma City. And that happened just moments ago, but let's go back 2 years ago. Do they have the same move? The celebration there. Oh, yeah. Wow. Little adjustment. And Jalen, a phenomenal pro right now with Oklahoma City on a team that continues to be on the rise as a 1 seed. And now Cody joining him out west. Monica?
Guys,
They've been messing up today.
Cody, congratulations. Kevin Nagandi, our terrific host, has pointed out that up until this point, you had said your brother Jalen's draft night was one of your best basketball memories.
Definitely.
How does your draft night rank now?
I mean, I still got an after party to go to, so I still got to enjoy it a little bit. But it's for sure going to be, it's going to be on top, for sure.
All right, so we also need to know, Jalen, how long did it take y'all to get the handshake this time around?
Days. I can't dance, so that was difficult.
All right, to the basketball of it all, Cody, there's a lot of excitement about the upside of your game, your skill level. The Utah Jazz, what are they getting in you?
I think just a versatile and unselfish two-way player. I think just with my skill set, being able to play both ends of the floor, that's really huge for me, and that's something I take pride in. So, just coming in, doing whatever it takes to win, that's obviously my biggest goal, but I think my versatility is what's going to help him out the most.
Outstanding stuff. Cody, congratulations.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Good to see you, Jalen.
Jalen all smiles, feeling good. Williams, the first freshman from Colorado, drafted in program history. We'll be back with more of the NBA Draft 2024 presented by State Farm. Back here in Brooklyn as we continue the NBA Draft. Pick number 11 with the Bulls on the clock. Bob Myers, Stephen A. Smith, Kevin Nagandi here with you. So 10 picks in with the Bulls, who've had already a very busy offseason, trading Alex Caruso to Oklahoma City for Josh Giddey. The pick is in right now, and here's the commissioner, Adam Silver.
With the 11th pick in the 2024 NBA Draft, the Chicago Bulls select Matis Buzelis from Chicago and the NBA's G League Team Ignite.
Second time G League Ignite, had multiple lottery picks with Holland and Buzelis going in this lottery. The Lithuanian staying home in Chicago. He has had quite a journey at 19 years. Great work ethic, but there's a great unknown when we talk about what he can do. At 6'9", 197 pounds, a 2023 McDonald's All-American. Played basketball in Kansas, Boys Basketball Player of the Year in 2023. He's a competitive swimmer during his childhood. He feels the Lithuanian legacy running through his veins every time he steps on the court. Likes also to smack talk.
I was born in Chicago, but my parents are Lithuanian. Basketball in Lithuania is like a religion. So being from there and having it in the genes just gives me an advantage. Trash talking game, I really can't say it on camera. Whoever's watching, don't do what I do. I feel like I play better once I talk a little smack, but some games I really just be locked in and not talking at all. My scouting report is I'm very versatile. I can block shots, I can push the ball in transition, I can shoot the ball, I can post up. I feel like I could do everything on the court.
See the emotion there again. Born in Chicago, gets to play with the hometown Bulls. And again, size. This is the modern NBA. He's 6'9", and the question is, he's explosive. You see the draft room with the Bulls here. Billy Donovan, they lost in the play-in the last 2 years. They haven't had won a playoff series since 2015, Stephen A. We'll get your thoughts in a moment. Let's go right now to Monica McNutt.
Mataz, I had an original question for you because I know you're a big-time trash talker, but I want you to put words to the emotion you're feeling first.
I'm blessed, man. This is what I wanted. I wanted to be here. I just can't. Thank you to the Bulls organization. I'm ready to work, man. I was born for this.
All right, so you got that out of the way. Now, as an elite trash talker, do you have a message for anybody that thought you couldn't be here? And if not, that's totally fine, too.
I don't gotta say nothing. I thank everybody who doubted me. Thank you to everyone that doubted me, because I wouldn't be here without y'all. I use it as fuel. And everybody that supported me, I can't thank you enough. The support cast has been insane. So I thank you to everyone.
All right, Mataz, congratulations. You get to stay in your hometown of Chicago. Enjoy the rest of the night.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Monica, thank you so much. You see the emotion from the young man there, Stephen A.
First time I've ever seen a kid in my life. I love him already. I love that kind of attitude. That's what I'm drafting, somebody with a top 10 pick. I want somebody with that attitude, okay? I love it. I don't, well, you know, you do. You certainly do. Right, but just like you know how to do
Okay, all right, okay.
Here's the deal. This kid, I love the attitude, but let's understand something here. DeMar DeRozan, unrestricted free agent. Zach LaVine only played in 25 games last year. Missed the most games since rookie campaign, if I remember correctly. They need somebody like this. And look at this kid. The handle, the hops, the jab step and the pull-up. I mean, they don't know how to evaluate something like that. I mean, I'm seeing this kid right here, and I'm thinking about Chicago. I'm thinking about the attitude. My only issue was when he was picked, they started playing what I call Michael Jordan music. That music should not be allowed in Chicago until they start winning some playoff games.
And Wilbon, our buddy.
That's it. That's not the kid's fault, though.
Our buddy
That's not the kid's fault. Congratulations to the kid.
Yeah, no, it's great. And I agree with all that, even including the song. He's a great, look, not a lot of holes in this guy's game. Not a lot of holes. And I like the confidence, too. Confidence is a huge part of succeeding as a young player in the NBA. And he has it in spades. And the guy played well. And his field defensively, Kevin and Stephen A., it's not just the offensive stuff. They didn't show a lot of, he can block shots, he can do a lot of different things. You know what else I liked? I don't know if any of the other players have thanked the organization. Small thing. Right. But you know what he said? I want to thank the Bulls. It stood out. He said, thank you for picking me. I appreciate that. He wanted to be there. I like the emotion. It was the right kind of emotion, and I think the Bulls got something. And this guy, question is, Stephen A., what are the Bulls trying to do? Are they trying to go young? They did the trade with Giddey. They've got older players still. They got DeRozan, they got Levine, they got to figure
you
out.
don't know what they're trying to do right now because with Levine, you can't rely on him because of his health. And with DeRozan, you don't blame him if he wants to leave because it's a relatively stagnant situation. You get a kid like that, you're going to need time for him to mature. But he's a local product. Chicago has one of the best fan bases in America. They're going to rally behind their team. They're certainly going to rally behind an individual that's homegrown with that kind of talent, that kind of attitude, wanting to be there. And oh, by the way, just as a reminder, it's freezing as hell in Chicago. Good, and he wants to be there. And he wants to be there anyway. Yeah. That's a very big thing. It's a very big thing.
Are the double-breasted suits? Is that coming back?
It's coming back.
I just didn't know.
It depends on who's wearing it. Everybody can't rock the double breast.
Very true. I wore one last year here on this set.
It did. How did it?
It looked okay.
It looked good.
Yeah,
it looked good.
okay.
Just not as good as me. Just not as good as me.
Listen. So let's go. We talk about specifically the trade with Caruso and going to the Thunder, and then Giddey going to Chicago. We've got the Thunder on the clock right now when we take a look at their team headlines. And I mean, where do you go after a phenomenal season with Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, second in the MVP voting? They got the Coach of the Year, Chet Holmgren, and the All-Rookie first.
How about the word further? Because you did go home in the Western Conference semifinal.
But you're the youngest team in NBA history to win a playoff series.
I had a vote. I voted Shai Gilgeous-Alexander as my league MVP. I thought he deserved it personally. No shade thrown on Jokic or anybody else. But Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is that dude. Jalen Williams is that dude.
Yes.
He's only going to continue to climb, okay? They needed some girth on their front line. Obviously, that's something that you're looking at when you're looking at them. But they've got the pieces in place. And Chet Holmgren, we talk so much about Wembanyama. He was really good.
Yeah, and the Caruso trade signaled they want to win now.
Here's the commissioner with the pick.
With the 12th pick in the 2024 NBA Draft, the Oklahoma City Thunder select Nikola Topic from Belgrade, Serbia, and Serbia's Crvena Zvezda.
This is the biggest unknown in the draft. Partially torn ACL after spraining his knee. You know, he played for a prospect factory in Serbia, 6'6", 203 pounds. When we talk about a team that could actually take a project, and if you have to give him some time to get right and get healthy, this is the team that could do that.
Well, listen, let me say this about Sam Presti. He hasn't won a championship as the leading executive. That's about the only thing he hasn't done. Because everything else he's done, he's been phenomenal at his job. There's no doubt about it. You got to trust that he knows what he's doing here, particularly with the personnel that they have in place. We'll see what this kid can do. Don't know much about him, Bob.
Well, look, he's a playmaker. He's probably one of the best passers in the draft. They like playmakers. They lost Giddey. He kind of did that for them, so maybe this is a Giddey replacement, but great pick for the Oklahoma City Thunder.
Nikola explains how his game will translate to the NBA. Also let us know how the Luka effect has exploded in Serbia.
I'm Nikola Topic. I'm from Novi Sad, Serbia, and I play for Red Star. I can bring the stability to the team, the offense and to the defense. I will try to make everybody else on the court 10% better.
Through three, connects. There you go, Luka.
I like to watch Luka Doncic. He had big impact on us, and a lot of kids started playing basketball because of him. And we want to be like him, one of the best players in the world.
He's a big point guard at 6'7". His last game was January 4th. You see some notable Serbians and Serbian-born players and drafted, and a handful of guys, of course, led by Vlade Divac, Darko Milicic, the highest one taken, second overall in that LeBron draft. For much more, here is Monica McNutt.
Nikola, as we looked at the Serbian excellent players, you said, I know those guys, I love them. How has watching them inspired you to get to this moment?
Of course, first of all, it's a big pleasure to be around those guys and to be in that group. And I mean, just watching them, I wanted to be like them, and they inspired me a lot. And yeah, that's it.
Unfortunately, you've had to navigate some injuries. But what is this organization getting? What is OKC getting in you?
They're getting a good teammate, leader on the court and off the court, and I'll try to do my best.
Congratulations, Nikola.
Thank you very much.
Monica, thank you so much. The scouting report from Jonathan Givony might be the smartest guy in the draft. Now going to Oklahoma City, Topic with the Thunder. Sunday afternoon, there's WNBA doubleheader action on ESPN, 1 p.m. Eastern, here in the Barclays Center. Breanna Stewart, Sabrina Ionescu, and the New York Liberty host the Atlanta Dream. Then at 3 p.m., Caitlin Clark and the Fever will be in Phoenix to take on Diana Taurasi and the Mercury. Our coverage begins. WNBA Countdown, 12:30 p.m. Eastern. Both games streaming live on the app. Okay, so we got the Sacramento Kings now on the clock. Stephen A. Smith, Bob Myers, and Kevin Negandhi here once again as we now hit the heart of this draft, in the middle of it. And this is where you can find some picks and you're like, whoa, Devin Carter is still on the board. A young man from Providence who just completely pops on the screen. A guy you love in Dalton Knecht from Tennessee, still available, still on the board, who could fill it up.
Oh, you definitely need that. I like Knecht a lot, no question about it. You got De'Aaron Fox there. You keep Malik Monk, some continuity there. Mike Brown's not going anywhere. So you look at Sacramento, even though they didn't have the success that they enjoyed the year before, even though it was a thriller first-round 7-game series against you guys, at the end of the day, you look at them and you know they have some talent. Are you going to pick the right piece in order for you to propel yourself in a thick highly competitive Western Conference? That's really the question mark.
Yeah, and you look at the best available, those are very, very good players there. All those guys, I think, could step in right there. And many of those guys listed on best available were of the older type of player. Dalton Knecht, looking at one of those guys, one of the oldest players in the draft. There's other players that the Kings think can maybe fit in. But here's the issue, Stephen A. In the West, the Kings are a good team, but it's going to take more than that. You could win 44, 45 games, not even make the play-in in the West. So can the Kings get better with a draft pick? I don't know. And that's why I say, again, I'm surprised we haven't seen more trades. We've seen some that haven't come through yet, some discussions, but no major players been moved. We haven't even really seen any role players been moved. So what that might tell me is, in this draft, people weren't really after these picks. Nobody was really after a lot of these picks because there's so much unknown in this draft. We might look back on this draft and the best player hasn't been picked yet. You just don't know. That's the unpredictability of this whole thing.
I watched Knecht during the NCAA tournament. His brother makes shots. I like him a lot. And I think that obviously with somebody like a Monk and a De'Aaron Fox, they're capable of doing it, especially Monk when he gets streaky. But in the same breath, if you can get anybody that's more reliable from a consistency standpoint, that makes them even more of a potent threat. You got to be able to score points in the Western Conference. You got to be able to do it. And if you can add more offense to that squad, I think that would make Sacramento more potent.
By the way, when you talk about the roster, Malik Monk agreeing to a potential 4-year deal, that's a big deal for this Kings team as the pick is in, and here's the commissioner.
With the 13th pick in the 2024 NBA Draft, the Sacramento Kings select Devin Carter from Providence College.
The 2024 Big East Player of the Year. All Big East first team selection, and there he is with his dad, Anthony, who played 13 NBA seasons, currently an assistant for the Memphis Grizzlies. And you have a guy, Devin Carter, who dominated team workouts this offseason, impressed so many people at 6'2", 22 years of age. The wingspan is 6'9". He understands offense, and we're talking about a guy who, again, is 6'2", and he was third in the Big East in rebounds at 9 per game.
Well, his rebounding rate was off the charts. I mean, it was right there. Klingon was ahead of him, a couple other guys, but he is an energy cyclone. I mean, this guy, you feel him. I can feel him from here. I mean, you can feel the energy. He's only 100 feet, 200 feet away from us, but he's 22 years old. His shot, he changed, he tweaked a little bit, shot 38% from 3. His father obviously played in the NBA, a little bit of a late bloomer in some respects, but like you said, the rebound rate, I used to like guys with the shorter and the big wingspan. I used to like guys like that.
The experience that Devin's dad, Anthony, spent in the NBA no doubt helped Devin prepare for this night.
My dad, Anthony Carter, played in the NBA for 13 years. Definitely just meant a lot growing up. It gave me the right impression of how hard it was to not only make it to the NBA, but have a long career in the NBA as well.
And Carter with the exclamation point!
Playing off 2 feet, I think, really changed my game and my efficiency levels. Just watched a lot of film of me playing off 1 foot and really only have one option, which is to put the ball on the rim, and maybe a second option, which is to, try to pass it out. But at that point, you're jumping to find a pass, not to make a pass.
just playing off 2 feet, slowing down, taking advantage of what the defense gives me, really elevated my efficiency and my offensive game a lot.
There's the moment with his dad, Anthony. Longtime NBA veteran. The celebration led the Big East in scoring 20 points per game. As head coach Kim English told me this young man is wired to win, and he's standing by with Monica.
Devin, congratulations. I know that you've considered your dad your GOAT. You just talked about him in that feature. Do you remember the first moment that it capitalized in your mind how hard he was working and the example he was setting for you to get here?
Yeah, I caught him at the end of his career, so I had to watch highlights and stuff whenever he was back in his prime. But now, like I said, I respect him how hard he worked. He always got on the court for how hard he played defense, how well he led the second unit, and just the man he was. So I, give him all the thanks.
Anthony, you know firsthand that while this man is starting his individual career, it is also about a support system. How will you encourage him as he's on the beginning of his NBA journey?
I just tell him to go out there and play hard and refuse to lose. You only get one chance at it, and you can't go in acting like you made it. Every day you step on the court, you got to compete, and don't care who you playing against. Don't get starstruck because they put on their pants just like you. And just the way he plays on both sides of the ball and his intelligence, his IQ, and the way that he just loves to win and play hard, I told him it's going to take him a long ways.
Well, gentlemen, both the suits are sharp. It's giving a little bit of gender reveal, but I know you didn't do that on purpose. Congratulations, Devin.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
All right, Sean.
Monica, the pastels are popping, no doubt, with the Carter family. And you look at the numbers. Again, the guy can jump out of the gym. The max vertical 42, and he's just under 6'3", and he's strong.
I like that about him. My reservation is that Davion Mitchell, coming out of college a couple of years ago, energized a bunny, real rough and rugged, goes after it, and you saw them, and even though he got some playing time and stuff like that, you wonder how they're going to be utilized in Sacramento. Fewer starting lineups used than any other team in the NBA with 7. Still 146 game. Wasn't necessarily good enough to make the playoffs.
By the way, we got a trade here that, and right now you see that the Blazers are supposed to be on the clock and the 14th pick. They're sending that pick to the Wizards. So the Wizards are currently on the clock, and the Wizards are getting Malcolm Brogdon in this trade, as well as a future first rounder in 2029 and a pair of second round picks down the road. So when you see some movement, there is a little bit of movement right there, Bob. Not the big splash that we've seen so far.
Washington's continuing to rebuild, stockpiling picks, and Denny Avdia was up to get paid. And I think what this signaled was the Wizards weren't prepared to maybe pay what Avdia wanted, an extension if they had early talks. And Portland's grabbing another young player that they obviously scouted and liked, and Avdia had a great year.
Averaged 15 points per game.
He really had a good year. The Wizards didn't get a lot of exposure. They didn't have a very good season on the win-loss record, but he did contribute and he did evolve as a player this year.
So keep in mind, it says the Blazers, but it's technically the Wizards pick.
With the 14th pick in the 2024 NBA Draft, the Portland Trail Blazers select Bub Carrington from the University of Pittsburgh.
He was known as Carlton Carrington, and then he changed his name to Bub Carrington. His dad known as Bub, he was called Little Bub, and he really shined late in the season at Pitt. And you see him all smiles. The freshman guard averaging under 14 points and 4 assists, second ACC player to record a triple-double in his first career game. Last time to do that, Dennis Scott in 1987 when he was with Georgia Tech. And he is on his way to Washington.
Yeah, he's a guy that did a lot late, and he showed that he could play a primary ball handling position. He could handle that responsibility. Only 18 years old, but he's got good size, 6'4". A lot of potential with this player. Probably where a lot of people thought he was going to be picked. He was one of those late risers and kind of shot at the draft board. And now the Wizards, again, are taking another shot and saying, let's grab another young player and see what we get.
First Pitt player drafted in the first round since Steven Adams back in 2013 when he went 12th overall. While at Pitt here, Bub certainly proved himself as someone that can beat you in a variety of ways. He also joined his family in an effort to help others in the community.
I'm a GM
and I see Bob Carrington in the game, I'm saying he loves that pull-up. I say he's a good decision maker. I say you probably need to get to the basket a little bit more, show that he's 6'5" for real. I've experienced having a triple-double quite a few times in my life, and I feel like with my size and my willingness to go down and rebound, my willingness to pass, and obviously I know I can score, I feel like I can rack those up.
So Bub Carrington on his way to the Washington Wizards. Keep in mind, he's 6'3", just under 200 pounds. As a high school junior, he was 5'4", 85 pounds, so making the jump rapidly the last couple of years, and he is standing by with Monica.
Bub, congratulations. You're headed to the nation's capital, but you're very distracted. Who is right here?
That's my squad right there. That's H2P right there. That's the squad.
What do you want to say to the people that have supported you like that, your teammates?
It means a lot. It definitely means a lot. I got a lot of fans here, or not fans, I got a lot of teammates, got a lot of family in here. It definitely means a lot. Because everyone that helped me along this way, they wanted to, you know, and I want to give back to them in a way.
Now, one of the people in your life that was hugely impactful, your dad, a legendary AAU coach in Baltimore, had the chance to work with Carmelo Anthony as he was coming up. What do you remember of watching guys that were younger that went on to become future pros that will inspire you as a pro?
They were relentless. You know, they had a certain walk, a certain attitude about it. And it was like they weren't gonna stop, and they weren't gonna let nobody stop them from achieving to getting in this spot right here. And that's something I kind of tried to model.
You are definitely modeling that, Bub. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Monica, thank you. H2P, hail to Pitt. We'll be back with much more of the NBA Draft 2024 presented by State Farm after these messages. Welcome back to the NBA Draft 2024 on ABC presented by State Farm. Always got to look clean. The fit's got to be on point. Alex Sarr, Jared McClain, Zachary Richeche, the #1 pick overall, trying to look good.
This is not a category Bob Myers is equipped
Why
to
would you
speak
say
on.
that? Why would you say that?
It's a struggle.
You're probably right. I would probably agree.
Hey, some of the headlines here so far tonight on ABC as we continue the NBA Draft at Barclays. The NBA record, 3 international players from the same country in the top 10 representing France. We saw them go the first 2, 1 and 2, a pair of UConn stars. Second time UConn has 2 top 10 picks, and the Kentucky guards again going in the lottery at 2 of them. The Heat on the clock, and here's the commissioner as the pick is in.
With the 15th pick in the 2024 NBA Draft, the Miami Heat select Khalil Ware from Indiana University.
Started his career at Oregon, transferred to Indiana, and he was fantastic in the Big Ten. 16 points, 10 rebounds, 2 blocks, shoots the 3 really well. 7'3" wingspan for a young man who's 7 feet, 230 pounds.
I'd always worried about who the Heat drafted. They make everybody look good.
Yes, they do.
I mean, they do. They make everybody look good. This guy's 7 feet tall, 20 years old, rim running big, has the potential to be switchable big, does a lot of different things, but some of it's on potential because there was moments where you wanted a little bit more shot blocking, rebounding, but a great pick by the Heat.
Everybody's been so focused on what's going to happen with Jimmy Butler. Let me tell you this. The Miami Heat know that Bam Adebayo, as great as he is, and congratulations on him getting his bag, he doesn't really need to be at the 5. He needs to be playing with another big in their lineup. If you're a guy that can average 16 and 10, you got 2 block shots to go with it, you're legit 7 feet tall, whatever the case may be. You got the 7'3" wingspan and what have you. That's a big, big deal. That's somebody that can take some of the pressure off of Bam Adebayo. And keep in mind, he's playing for former Knicks coach Mike Woodson, who's done a good job at the University of Indiana. He knows a thing or two about what it takes to succeed on the NBA level.
They nailed last year's pick, Jaime Jaquez. Surprised a few, and they nailed him.
I like that kid.
He fit perfectly in the Heat culture, right? You see Khalil's versatility really going to be valuable, as you talked about with Bam Adebayo. Throughout his career, he's going to be put in the right spot if he's a part of that Heat program. There's one thing that he wants every time he steps on the court, and I'm sure Pat Riley loves to hear this. This young man wants to win, and win only. Let's take a look at tonight's prospect resume, brought to you by Indeed.
Strengths of my game, you know, I'm definitely versatile. I'm able to guard 1 through 5. I'm a pick and pop guy, a lob threat, able to shoot the ball, and I'm able to affect shots, block shots at the rim, and so that's what makes me, you know, special. If you fill up a stat sheet, that means you did everything that you could to help your team win the game. And so I feel like if you do that, and especially if your team does get the dub, I feel like you did your job as a player.
And you look at the numbers here, what he did as a freshman at Oregon, 6 points, 4 rebounds, massive jump, the adjustment, leading Indiana in all 3 categories when you talk about points, rebounds, and field goal percentage. And Khalil is standing by with Monica McNutt.
You good?
Yeah, I'm good. I'm good.
All right, Khalil, you have a tattoo, Humble Beast. It sounds pretty simple, but tell me what your motivation and why you need to be reminded of that in the course of your journey.
I mean, just because, you know, you're not supposed to never just get too, you know, high on yourself. So I always just want to, you know, stay humble, but on the court I can always, you know, bring that beast out. And so, you know, that's just where that, you know, where that tattoo come from. So.
Right now, you're headed to an organization that has a pretty pristine record in terms of finding guys that fit the Heat way and bringing the best out of them. What are you bringing to that organization?
Man, I'm everything that they need me to bring. Whatever they need me to bring, that's all I got to say. I'm so grateful that they just picked me. So, yeah, oh my God, yeah.
Can you come up with one word to describe this moment?
I don't know if I can.
We just had to try. We see the emotion on your face. Congratulations, Khalil.
Thank you.
I appreciate Khalil's awareness that this is a PG program with all the emotions going through his body, talking to Monica as he is now a member of the Miami Heat. Hey, by the way, we talk about trades and movement. We do have a trade, and it involves the Spurs. Again, remember, they had the 4th and 8th pick overall. They picked with the 8th pick Rob Dillingham. He is going to Minnesota. In return, San Antonio gets the unprotected first-round pick in 2031, also a protected pick swap in 2030. When you see a guy like Rob Dillingham going to Minnesota, Stephen A., your first thought.
I appreciate them addressing a need because this guy ain't scared to put the ball up at all. And when you're on the court and you have that potential, along with Anthony Edwards, who we clearly know what he brings to the table, that just makes your offense more important. We know Minnesota was the #1 ranked defense in the NBA this year. Offensively, they were a bit challenged, 18th during the regular season, had some trouble during the playoffs.
And if you want to nitpick Minnesota, where they struggled in the playoffs with scoring in the half court, Anthony Edwards can obviously do that. But beyond that, they struggled. They got a lot of good players. They got some exceptional defensive players. I think they make that trade, which they gave up a lot. Unprotected pick that far into the future, that's a scary thing for a team to do in the pick swap in 30. But Tim Connelly is great at building teams. He must have seen something in Dillingham that he really liked enough to pay that price.
And the Philadelphia 76ers are on the clock. It's time for the program to begin here for many in Philadelphia. My phone has been blowing up, Stephen A. What are we going to do? I have no idea what this organization is going to do, especially when you look at the cap that they have and everything that's open, but they have on the roster Joel Embiid and Tyrese Maxey. Nick Nurse, first season as a head coach, lost in the first round to some team from New York.
Let me hook you up with some knowledge here, Kevin Nagandi. Anybody that works with Daryl Morey, they don't know what the hell he's going to do until he lets them know at the last minute, okay?
You guys
That's how it goes.
You've never been you're a pretend GM. At least Kevin's not pretending.
Really?
No, yeah.
I've covered the league. I know Daryl Morey.
All right, fine. Listen, I'll tell you what. I think there's a good player left right here. I think this is McCain. I'm surprised Jared McCain hasn't been picked. From
out of Duke.
Yeah, I really like him. I do. I like him as a player. I think he does. There's not a lot he doesn't do. I don't know a lot about the TikTok stuff.
Right.
I don't know. I have to ask my daughters. He's very popular. He's good on TikTok. But that's not what I'm talking about. That's not what I'm talking about. I love his energy. Look at this kid. You like the other. Who was the other guy you like? You like Bazelis. You liked him. You're gonna like this kid.
Okay.
Wait till you see
all I'm saying is we didn't say Daryl Morey doesn't know what he's doing. We said Daryl Morey doesn't let anybody know what he's doing.
I know, and then I said you don't know what you're doing.
And that's what I said.
And let me tell you,
oh my goodness.
A guy like Jared McCain. And when you talk about his hype coming in Duke, he had to adjust the first couple of months, and then the final season, half a season, he looked like a different basketball player, especially in the tournament. So if he were to join the Sixers, they would be getting a big asset. You see Yves Missi, the young man from Baylor. And then there's your guy, Dalton Knecht, that is from Tennessee, projected to be in the top 10 as he continues to wait and wonder. An offensive guru in the sense that he can shoot and score from anywhere.
He can play. The problem is, it's hard with these guys. Age can work against you. And I'm not saying it's anybody's fault, but when teams are drafting, they're always hoping for more. When you look at Dalton Knecht, a lot of teams are saying, this is what he's going to be. This is his ceiling, which is fine. I think he can still play and be very good. But that age can hurt some teams. Some teams want to go super young. You're seeing 18-year-olds. He's almost 5 years older than a lot of these guys.
Are there any questions about his defense?
There's a little bit of questions.
All right,
but not about his offense.
I know that. When they question your defense, you have to be so prolific offensively, because if you're average or slightly above average on offense, but you provide no defensive tenacity whatsoever, the coaches are not going to play you, so why pick you? That's how a lot of them say they think.
Yeah, but he's got good size. No, he's got good size. He's got good athleticism. I still think he's going to be a very good NBA player. But that's why I think you're seeing a guy that projected to be the top 10 that's still on the board.
Okay, so we don't know what Daryl Morey's going to do. We're about to find out.
We're about to find out.
Here comes the commissioner.
And even then, we're not sure.
The pick is in.
We have a trade to announce. As part of a deal to be finalized later, the Portland Trail Blazers are trading to the Washington Wizards the draft rights to Bub Carrington, the 14th pick. And with the 16th pick in the 2024 NBA Draft, the Philadelphia 76ers select Jared McCain from Duke University.
Bob, you called it. The 2024 ACC All-Rookie team coming out of Duke shot 41% from three.
I was surprised he went this far. I really, maybe I'm partial to him, but when I was just kind of evaluating the draft, and not as much as I would normally do in the position, I just was wondering, this guy had some huge games at the end of the season, obviously tournament games. He was a late bloomer in some respects, wasn't a huge usage guy because Duke had other guys handling. And like I said, when you go through this process, you're trying to find problems with players. There's not a lot of problems with this guy. I mean, I guess you would like him to be maybe a little bit bigger, but he does a lot of things really well.
Getting the hug from Kyle Filipowski, who's also waiting to hear his name called. You mentioned how he finished the tournament with 16 threes, the most by a Duke freshman in a single tournament in Duke history, tying with his head coach, Jon Scheyer, we just saw giving him some love.
You are on the basketball court with Joel Embiid and Tyrese Maxey, and you can hit some threes.
Oh, yeah.
You're going to see some opportunities. I'm sorry. That's what this is about, and so I love the pick right now.
Shot, again, 41% from three, 89% from the free throw line. Can get to the hole, 14 points per game, nearly 3 million followers on TikTok. His social media influence brought his teammates at Duke closer together. His time in Durham was made even more special by being with his brother Jace.
I do TikToks. I like to dance. I like to showcase and just be myself, show some positive vibes on there. That's what I try to share. But yeah, I think it gets a lot of people involved, whether it's better connections with my teammates, just getting closer to them. I think when I get them to come out of their shell and do some dances, it's always good for the team chemistry. Oh man, that's brother, man. Hearing I'm gonna make it for Jace, that's been my whole mantra for a while now. He had blood clots in high school, so he had to stop playing. So it's our dream to make it to the NBA. It's something we both share. He was a grad assistant at Duke, so he was able to rebound for me, help me work out, watch film with me, and he's just the main part of my process, my biggest inspiration, biggest influence. So I can't wait to share this moment with him.
Brother Jace, 4 years older, celebrating that moment with his younger brother Jared. Love to see it. This is what it's all about, the memories shared with the families on the stage in that journey, and Jared joins Monica.
We have not just Jared, but also Jace. You said you wanted to get drafted for your brother. The moment is here. How are you feeling?
There's no words to describe it. I'm so grateful for this opportunity. And I have no words.
Jace, this guy dedicating this moment and this path and this push to you and being inspired by you, how does that make you feel?
It means everything to me, man. He worked so damn hard for this. And I'm just blessed to be a part of this journey, and it's such a big part of my purpose as a person, so it's everything to me.
Now, much has been made of your 2 million plus TikTok followers, right? But now you're starting your NBA career, and I'm sure that's something that you will share with those that are rooting for you. But what will they see of Jared McCain, the NBA player?
Just somebody who wants to achieve any goal he sets out to, a hard worker. I'm gonna do anything I can to bring home a championship, bring home just wins in general. I'm so happy to be here, man.
It's a great moment. Jared, congratulations. Jace, congratulations. You guys enjoy it.
Monica, thank you so much. Can I just say this on the set with you guys? I love this pick. Yeah. And the Sixers needed something. When you look at this roster, and they have the ability with all the cap space, over $50 million this offseason, looking to add a potential third superstar with the emergence of Tyrese Maxey and Joel Embiid. You need people that can quietly fill it up.
No question about it. You need it, and not only that, you need people who are assertive and aggressive. We got somebody like a Tobias Harris, a very good basketball player. But on too many occasions, we're asking him to be a bit more assertive than he's elected to be. You want to see, when you see a guy shoot 41% from three on a collegiate level, the first thing that enters your mind is that he can shoot. The second thing that enters your mind is that he wants to shoot. Right. And that's why he's in the NBA, because he wants to put it up. You're Maxey, you're Embiid, you need that.
And there's a lot to like about this guy. The numbers are great. 89 from the line, 41 from three, 52% from 2-point in the arc, good rebounding rate, good job defensively. And also, you like the energy of the kid. I mean, the NBA is a long season. You like having guys that come in the gym with a guy's got an unbelievable smile. I mean, it matters. You're around each other all the time. And I like a lot of things about this person and player.
We see in the background, the LA Lakers are on the clock, and they have 2 picks, and we will see how this plays out with them potentially in the second round with Bronny James in the Bronny James conversation. Right now picking at number 17, and first-year head coach J.J. Redick. A year ago, we were in the green room with him,
That's right.
and he was getting ready to be on the broadcast for ESPN to break down the draft.
Well,
now he's the head coach of the Lakers.
First of all, congratulations for being the head coach of J.J. Redick. I know he's watching me right now, no matter what you saw him walking into the bathroom or whatever. Let me say something to J.J. Redick, okay? Draft a shooter. That's what you did. That's what you did, and that's what the Lakers need. There is no excuse not to draft somebody who can shoot the damn ball when we watched all of those bricklaying tendencies that the Lakers put out there last year. If you're J.J. Redick, it's what you do. That's what you draft.
Would that be Dalton Connect?
Is that Furphy? Is that Connect?
Could that be Dalton Connect?
Maybe.
Here's the commissioner.
Maybe. LeBron will get him some shots.
We have another trade to announce. As part of a deal to be finalized later, the San Antonio Spurs are trading to the Minnesota Timberwolves the draft rights to Rob Dillingham, the 8th pick. And with the 17th pick in the 2024 NBA draft, the Los Angeles Lakers select Dalton Connect from the University of Tennessee.
You got it there, Stephen A. A unanimous first-team All-American. A shooter is going to LA.
I'm worried for Lakers fans. I'm worried for Lakers fans. I'm worried. President of NBA basketball operations. I am worried if I'm right here, right now. You're daggone right. That's what you needed to do. That's right. You're J.J. Redick, okay? That's what you want. You know how important you is. LeBron James is going to get you open shots. Anthony Davis kicks it out to somebody. He don't need bricklayers. They don't need construction workers. They need a shooter. This is Connect. I love the name, by the way. Connect. That's what he brings to the table. I think this is the pick you were supposed to get. Way to go, Lakers. Way to go. That's what you needed to do.
I am very afraid for Laker Nation.
Oh, stop it, man.
I'm scared.
Come on, man.
I feel awful for them.
Really?
So bad.
Seriously?
Yeah. Seriously? Celebration.
They should be concerned.
Rob Pelinka
should be concerned.
shaking hands there with JJ.
Talk to them before the pick.
Way to go, Rob Pelinka. Way to go, JJ.
We're talking about a young man that received no Division I scholarship offers as a senior. His basketball journey has been long and winding, but ending up at Rocket Top for one season, a dream come true.
I started off my college career at Northeastern Junior College, played there for 2 years, and then went to Northern Colorado for 2 more years. I went to Tennessee. It was the best year of my life.
He is absolutely on fire.
I would say the biggest change throughout this journey was my time at Tennessee, just working out every single day, putting on 20 pounds of muscle throughout that summer.
Connect flushes it.
I've always modeled my game after Kevin Durant, and it hasn't changed. He's been my favorite player ever since I first started watching basketball. I've watched probably almost every single YouTube video about it, his highlights and stuff. I first started dreaming about this moment when I first touched the basketball, and now it's coming true. It's quite special.
He's 6'6", plays the 2 or the 3. Everything he does, according to his scouting report, offensively should translate to the NBA. Dalton Knecht with Monica McNutt.
Dalton, I understand you have a little surprise?
Yeah, I got something underneath the suit. Got all my accolades on the left. And, got a support Ball Nation. And shout out the baseball team and stuff like that for winning. But, I'm excited.
We see the Gucci label, too, as well. All right, look, there's a guy that had a similar path to yours in Derek White that just became an NBA champion, went from D2 to the NBA. You're coming from junior college and now have this opportunity. What has changed for you when you didn't get any offers coming out of high school to get you to this moment?
It's a dream come true. It's a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, but, it's just a blessing. That's all I can say. I'm lost for words, and I'm ready to get to work.
When you get to work, though, what are your new teammates going to say about you?
Hard worker. I'm going to be in the gym every single day. That's what I do.
Outstanding. Congratulations, Dalton.
Appreciate you.
Listen, they shot about 37% from three-point range, which is not bad. That was a top 10 three-point shooting team in the game. I get that. But there were too many games, Bob, where I saw LeBron and Anthony Davis kicking it out to guys, and they just weren't getting it done. I understand the overall number looks good, but on too many key occasions, I didn't like what I saw from three-point range. I think I like it now.
J.J. Redick made a point in his press conference, Stephen A., that they have to shoot more threes. They have to. And I think that was a smart thing because it's too hard to win in the NBA now with such a low three-point attempt rate that the Lakers had. But this guy right here, Dalton Knecht, we were joking around. Besides the fact that you wanted to pick him, I think it's a really good pick for the Lakers because LeBron James is going to make it real easy for Dalton Knecht. Dalton Knecht just got to stand there. He's going to be open with Anthony Davis, LeBron James, and make shots. And he has already shown he can do that. And the fact that Anthony Davis, being one of the best defensive players in the league, if there was questions about Dalton Knecht's defense, which I think there is some questions, having Anthony Davis behind you erases a lot of concern there.
Credit to you. It's rare, but you were right again. Because the fact of the matter is that they were 28th in the league in three-point field goal attempts. So that piggybacks off your point. Again, there were times, most of the time, they were a top 10 three-point shooting team when they took them, percentage-wise. But on too many occasions, I didn't see them hitting in key games, key moments, when they needed the three the most. I didn't like it. They needed a shooter.
A young man shot 40% from 3, and how about 6 35-point games last season at the college level? Giving a shout-out to the Volunteers and their baseball team winning the NCAA championship. Magic on the clock. Here's the commissioner.
The 18th pick in the 2024 NBA Draft, the Orlando Magic select Tristan da Silva from Munich, Germany, and the University of Colorado.
And you see this young man, da Silva, coming from Colorado, teammates with Cody Williams. His mom is from Germany, his dad is Brazilian, and they are wearing lederhosen. Yes, representing Germany really well. Da Silva speaks 5 different languages. And again, mom and dad wearing lederhosen, representing Germany and his roots. 6'10", 218 pounds out of Colorado, the 23-year-old. Second team all Pac-12 selection this past season. Just, again, modern NBA, versatile player. He could do it all.
Yeah, look, this guy was another guy that rose up at the end. Kind of a do-everything guy over his last 14 games. Kevin, he averaged 17 points, 52 from the field, 42 from 3. Another guy that's a little bit older. Guy 23 years old, been around a little bit, finished at Colorado, but he moves well without the ball, so can handle a little bit. And he's a guy that can play. I think Orlando Magic are also a team making a statement that we're trying to win now. And I think this is a player that a coach can throw out there in Jamal Mosley, and he can give him real minutes early on in the season.
First time Colorado's had multiple first-round picks in a single draft, as Cody Williams went earlier. And now you have Tristan da Silva. Born in Germany, the European basketball influence runs strong in da Silva.
I was born in Munich, Germany. Was born and raised there. The German basketball culture is really different from the U.S. European basketball in general is a lot more tactical. My first language is German.
Tristan da Silva ist ein Spieler, der sehr vielseitig ist. Die Spielintelligenz, die er hat, ist wahrscheinlich sein Bestes. Very versatile, can play and guard multiple positions. He can stretch the floor, a good shooter.
Cheers to Silva.
And his IQ is going to translate very well to the next level.
He said his dream job, if he wasn't playing basketball, he'd be a model. Looks good right now and feeling good. Let's go to Monica.
Tristan, tonight, you and your teammate Cody become the first pair of Colorado players picked in the first round. It's been a whole lot of work to get here. But as you look ahead, what are you most excited about?
Seeing those guys again. Once we start competing, building those relationships along the way has been huge for me. So I'm hoping to make it a third one today with KJ. But I'm just super grateful. I'm super excited to step into this next situation.
Well said. Thank you, Tristan. Congratulations.
Monica, thank you so much. We'll be back with much more of the NBA Draft 2024 presented by State Farm after these messages and a word from our ABC stations.
I just came back for the win. Lot of new money in my hand. Go on, tell a friend and tell a friend. They say success is the best revenge. Heard it was sleeping again, say it no more. This is a rude awakening, kicking the door. Back and I'm better
See
than
tomorrow's
ever before.
stars play here. The NBA 2K25 Summer League is the first opportunity to see the NBA's future stars take the court. It begins July 12th to the 22nd in Las Vegas. Check your local listings for coverage of those games. Fantastic time and the feel good for a lot of these franchises when they can watch their rookies perform on that stage here with Bob Myers, Stephen A. Smith, and Kevin Negandhi. And the pick is in right now for the Toronto Raptors at number 19. Let's go to the big stage here with the commissioner, Adam
With
Silver.
the 19th pick in the 2024 NBA Draft, the Toronto Raptors select Jacoby Walter from Baylor University.
The Big 12 Freshman of the Year. 6'5", 198 pounds, the 19-year-old. Led Baylor with 14 points per game. Shot 34% from three. By the way, the name Jacoby, his parents named him, Eddie and Sabrina, they named him after Michael Jordan and Kobe Bryant, and they got Jacoby, but he models his game after Paul George.
I'm still processing the combination of the name for a second there, but look, he's a heck of a player. Gets the three ball up at a huge rate. Some people call him a movement shooter, which is somebody that can catch on fast movement, get a three up. 34% could be a little bit better. He was 79 from the line, but he's a physical player. A lot of people view him as a guy that can defend immediately and hold his own very quickly at the NBA level due to his physical stature.
Joins a Raptors team where Scotty Barnes, according to Woj, reporting a 5-year deal, $270 million. And a young roster there, as you see, and he hugs Nisi, his teammate there at Baylor. Young man can again fill it up. Scoring is a big thing for the Raptors, a team that just won 25 games.
Give them a little faith. Well, obviously, side knows what he's doing. You also got to take into consideration guys that they developed along the way before they departed. The Pascal Siakams, the OG Anunobys of the world. They've got a good reputation in terms of developing talent, so that's what you look at with this guy.
Jacoby gives us a self-scouting report and explains the influence his dad Eddie had on Jacoby's ever-evolving game.
Elite scorer, two-way player, sacrificing the body, taking charges, diving on the floor. Me being able to move off the ball, defenders having to pay attention to where I am. They can't sag off me, I'm gonna knock down the shot.
Cha-ching! Cha-ching!
My pops, Eddie Walter Jr., he played at Birmingham Southern, has this current steals record over there. They called him the Web. I shoot better than him. I'm better offensively than he is. Just playing him, I mean, I still see the instincts that he has, and he tries to pour it into me like the little tricks he would use.
Great moment with his family, of course, celebrating. Jacoby Walter standing by with Monica McNutt.
Jacoby, what about this moment brought the waterworks a little bit?
Just all glory to God. You know, he got me here. It's just been a long journey. My family supported me the whole way, so it's just a very emotional moment.
All right, Coach Drew, this is another one of your outstanding freshmen. He's the third freshman he drafted straight out of your program. What is it about being able to maximize that year, both from you and his commitment?
First of all, I'm extremely blessed to work with great young men, and he's one of them. They deserve all the credit. They great families, raised the right way. Jacoby's going to have a great career in the NBA. Bear for life, baby.
I love it. Congratulations, gentlemen. Jacoby, welcome to the NBA.
Monica, thank you so much. Scott Drew and the pride of Baylor. You see the best available. You could stay in the Big 12. Johnny Furphy surprised many out of Kansas, still on the board, a handful. And keep an eye on Isaiah Collier. Much more coming up from Barclays after this. And welcome back to the Barclays Center in beautiful Brooklyn, New York, as we continue the 2024 NBA Draft. Kevin Negandhi alongside Stephen A. Smith and Bob Myers. The Cleveland Cavaliers on the clock with the 20th pick. Loss of the Celtics in the second round this offseason. They hired Kenny Atkinson. And here's the commissioner, Adam Silver, with the pick.
With the 20th pick in the 2024 NBA Draft, the Cleveland Cavaliers select Jalen Tyson from the University of California, Berkeley.
See the reaction with the Cavaliers. First Cal player to go in round one since that we all have heard about, Jaylen Brown in 2016. From Austin to Lubbock and finally to Berkeley, Jalen's game has evolved at each stop.
First of all, my versatility stands off the roof. So when I was at University of Texas, I was just a shooter. When I got to Texas Tech, I found out I was a really good rebounder. From those two schools going to Cal, everything just was put together. I have a little brother named Jordan Tyson. He plays football at Arizona State. And I have an older brother that played football at South Alabama. So I come from a football family. I was playing football up until 7th grade. And they expected me to come down and hit this big old running back. So me, I wasn't finna do it. So I was like, you know what? I'm out going basketball. Like, I'm done.
You see the growth there. Originally started at Texas and then transferred after the middle of his freshman year to Texas Tech and then closing out and then the big jump at Cal as he was an all Pac-12 first team selection. He joins the Cavaliers team that has a handful of questions here, Stephen A. Like Donovan Mitchell, obviously, 26 points per game, and then Darius Garland. Can they coexist?
Stop right there. Only question that matters is Donovan Mitchell. What's going to happen with Donovan Mitchell in the future? Because, I mean, is he going to want to be there? You're going to invest in him long term, et cetera, et cetera. What kind of potential does this guy have? Obviously, coming in, you don't look for him to be an immediate replacement or anything like that. Just the direction that they're going in, Bob, tells you there's some level of concern in their backcourt, and you go from there.
Well, yes, there's concern, but I don't think it's a concern with Donovan Mitchell. All indicators are that he's staying. I mean, I think if he wasn't going to stay, he'd be a guy we'd be talking about a lot. You'd have him talking about all the time. He might have been getting traded tonight. I think the Cavs feel good, at least all indications look that way, that he's going to stay. Now, the question is beyond that to me is Garland and Mitchell the right combination? A little bit like we talked about Trae Young and Dejounte Murray. But this pick, you know, they went with a 21-year-old 6'6" guy. Looks like he can play the 2-3, good size. Did a lot for the Cal team, but you're right. The question for this Cleveland Cavaliers team is, what's the next step? And is Jared Allen involved in that? They want to move Mobley to the 5. These are the bigger questions tonight. They just probably went out and grabbed the best player. Much bigger questions from the veterans on their roster.
What do you think of Kenny Atkinson now taking over this team?
I think that's a good call. We all know that, you know what, obviously his record wasn't that great in Brooklyn, but he did get them to the playoffs once. He had a 1-win season in the 4 years there. A lot of people felt he didn't deserve to be pushed out of Brooklyn, especially for the inexperienced Steve Nash, who ultimately replaced him. So being in Golden State thereafter, not immediately, but the last 3 seasons under the great Steve Kerr and the great Golden State Warriors organization, I think helped his cachet significantly, and he obviously deserved a second chance at this job.
Yeah, being around Kenny, I can tell you what, analytically driven, he's a great offensive mind, and they need that, right? They're a defensive team in many respects, so freeing them up offensively, I think he'll have some good ideas there. and trying to find a way to make this backcourt work. Sometimes easier, like I've always said, I said it on your show this morning, easier to change the coach than the roster. Yeah, I know that sounds harsh for people in the coaching profession, but you usually try that before you break a team up.
Yeah.
Okay, on the clock right now is New Orleans, and the Pelicans here. The concern in previous years was Zion Williamson's health. Well, he played 70 games in the regular season, most of his season in his career, and they went 42-28 in those games. But he missed the first round of that series against Oklahoma City with a hamstring injury. Brandon Ingram's future in doubt right now, and then again, swept by the Thunder in the first round. The last time they won a playoff series, 2018. Here's the commissioner, Adam Silver, with the pick for the Pelicans.
With the 21st pick in the 2024 NBA Draft, the New Orleans Pelicans select Yves Missi from Yaoundé, Cameroon, and Baylor University.
First thing that comes into mind, defense size. 51 blocks this past season, third most by a freshman in Baylor history, and he shot 61% from the floor.
7 feet tall, 7.5 wingspan. There's big and then there's that. That's a different category of big. But he moves well. If you watch him on tape, he's a very fluid defender. He moves well, he blocks shots well. Potential to also do some switching. There's no reason why you would say he's not a plotter. Big 12 all-defensive team as a freshman, 10 points, 7 points, 61 from the field. The question now is, it's interesting because this is a team that is going to play a guy with Zion Williamson, right? And so you always want to know, is Zion going to push his game out to start shooting some threes? Because this is not a three-point shooter here in Missi. And so you say, how do you play him with Zion Williams? Because Zion Williams has shown, at least Stephen A, in the last year, that he's the centerpiece of what everybody thought he was going to be, right. And he proved it last season.
Well, listen, he played the games, he showed up, but his big moment is when he showed up against the Los Angeles Lakers to play in.
Yes.
I mean, he showed up that game, the level of aggression, just 2 days after he had wet the bed, he showed up and answered the call and let everybody know what he could do before he ultimately got injured again. His health is obviously the determining factor to where how far New Orleans can go.
Missi's basketball lineage runs deep through his family. They shot blocking force is following in the footsteps of some NBA stars from his native country of Cameroon.
I was born in Belgium and I grew up in Cameroon. And I moved to the States in December 2020. I was playing soccer before and then I started playing basketball because of my parents and brother. They all play for the national team and my brother played at Harvard. So I grew up watching him play and they become inspiration and I started wanting to play basketball. Right now, Derek Lively from Duke, who play for the Dallas Mavericks right now, translate his game pretty well from college to the league. He's been a great example. And then someone I've been watching since I'm young, I would say maybe Joel Embiid and Pascal Siakam, who are also from Cameroon.
He's only played organized basketball for 6 years, discovered at a camp at 4 years ago, and now he's a first-round pick in the NBA. He's standing by with Monica.
Yves, there have been some fantastic Cameroonian basketball players in the league, Joel Embiid, Pascal Siakam. For you to join that legacy and have the opportunity to continue to represent your country, how special is that?
I mean, it's definitely special. There's only 5 people in the history of Cameroon that went to the league, so be able to count me as one of them is crazy. It's now 6 out of like 30 million people. It's just insane.
Now, the New Orleans Pelicans organization, they are a team that seems to be on the cusp of doing some special things. How will you be able to contribute to helping them win?
I feel like I'm someone who can impact winning from day one, just being able to play defense, to be able to be a threat in offense as well. Just someone who brings energy all the time.
Outstanding, Yves. Congratulations.
Thank you so much.
First time Baylor's had multiple first-round picks in a single draft. The Suns are on the clock, and we'll be back with much more of the NBA Draft 2024 presented by State Farm.
After draft, the Phoenix Suns select Deron Holmes II. With the 22nd pick in the 2024 NBA Draft, the Phoenix Suns select Deron Holmes II from the University of Dayton.
Holmes led the Atlantic 10 in scoring, rebounding, and double-doubles First Dayton player since Obi Toppin taken in the first round. Only the third Dayton player drafted in the first round since 1966. And take a look at Holmes. I mean, he stands at 6'9", the wingspan of 7'1". Led Dayton in scoring and block shots all 3 seasons, and he shoots 39% from 3.
Well, you want somebody that's willing to defend. You want somebody that's going to prioritize that. You want them to have some offensive ability, of course, be some kind of a threat. But you don't need it that much, particularly with the offensive firepower you have on it. You need defenders, willing defenders, people that's willing to stop somebody. And that's what I think you've got here to some degree anyway.
Yeah, look, positionally, is he a 4? Is he a 5? Question marks. But he scored at an unbelievable rate, 40 points per 100 possessions. You wonder if that's Atlantic 10 conference strength. Where's the question? But this guy's a clear first-round pick based on the shooting alone. Like you said, 39% from 3. That will translate. So he's a multi-skilled offensive player. Question is he a 5 on defense? Is he a 4? If you're a 4, you got to be able to guard a little bit on the perimeter. And that's the question with Holmes.
Yeah. And by the way, we're getting some info in from Adrian Wojnarowski that this pick, the Suns at 22 and Holmes, is going to Denver. So Holmes will go to Denver. The Nuggets are sending Phoenix pick number 28, pick number 56, and 2 future seconds. So we will see this young man now going to Denver. And you look again, once again, the wingspan, 7'1". He can do a lot of things defensively, especially with his height. Forceful finisher at the rim with 73 dunks this season.
You know, and he also is a guy that the Nuggets didn't shoot enough threes either. I mean, this is like the Lakers we talked about. And this guy's going to get volume threes. He can do that right there. He gets to the rim, block shots. But really, I think the shooting is the interesting thing on this Nuggets team because they just didn't get a lot of three-point attempts. And so that's where a guy like this will help them.
So Holmes wearing the Phoenix Sun hat, but he will go to the Nuggets. And the young man from Dayton standing by with Monica McNutt.
So you become just the 3rd Dayton player to be taken in the first round. The Dayton faithful is here and loud and proud, but what does that mean to you?
It means everything, man. It's been a long journey, and it's just I'm grateful for all my friends, all my family, and you know, it's been a long journey.
What are the Denver Nuggets ultimately getting when you join their organization?
They're gonna get a great player. I'm here to play hard. I'm here to be a stud. That's all it is, So I'm gonna do my best. That's all I'm gonna do.
Congratulations, De'Ron. Enjoy the rest of your night.
Thank you guys so much.
Monica, thank you so much. I want to remind you, Saturday night, it's UFC 303 from Las Vegas. Main event features a UFC Light Heavyweight Championship rematch. The prelims start on ESPN at 8 p.m. Then the main card starts at 10 p.m. Eastern, Saturday on ESPN Plus, pay-per-view. So we got the Milwaukee Bucks on the clock right now, and it's really interesting when you look at the Bucks and the expectations from the offseason, acquiring Damian Lillard and then to lose in the first round of the Pacers. We're all aware that Giannis was not there because of the injury, the coaching change with Doc Rivers taking over and not producing when you have the expectations and the results here. When you look at the Bucks right now, what are you looking at specifically here future-wise with Damian Lillard and Giannis together?
Whether or not they can coexist on an elite level to challenge the Boston Celtics for supremacy within the Eastern Conference. That is the expectation. There is nothing else that anybody's thinking about. Sure, you've got Chris Middleton. You're wondering how much he's got in the tank, how much he's got left, along with some other pieces. I get all of that. But in the end, it comes down to the big two. Dame Time, and the Greek Freak himself. The Boston Celtics are the reigning defending NBA champions. The Knicks made some noise. The Indiana Pacers were interesting. And they had their way with Milwaukee during the regular season. What are you going to do about that? Because remember, Giannis can step up one day and say, you know what? I want out of here. And if you're Doc Rivers, you got to keep your eyes on the job that you need to do because there's more that is expected of you. Darvin Ham has returned as a lead assistant coach. We know the organization has an affinity for him because he was there under Budenholzer for years before he departed to coach the Lakers. Now he's coming back. That ain't an accident. Oh. That ain't a coincidence. So you got to look at all of that. The Greek Freak and Damian Lillard have to answer the call. It's that simple.
And look, no doubt, win now. I mean, have to win now. I mean, they made this bet on Lillard. First-year mixed results. Honestly, we saw them gel at times, and then we kind of threw our hands up and said, this isn't working. And they traded out coaches, and it didn't necessarily solve their problems. They have had health issues. But whatever happens right now with this pick, it's probably not going to change the course of their next season. So they got to find a way. We've heard about Brook Lopez being a potential guy they move out of, but they got some decisions to make and find a way to elevate themselves a little bit better than what they did last season.
See the best available, Kyle Filipowski, the center from Duke, one of those guys. We saw Johnny Furphy from Kansas, Keyshawn George from Miami. Isaiah Collier is one of those guys out of USC. Played with Bronny. He's the #1 high school recruit in the country a year ago. Dealt with a wrist injury. And we haven't seen the best of this young man. He could be a superstar.
Yeah, and again, a guy that on film will do some amazing things. And you wonder, how does it translate, right? And I think the NBA's response to that right now is they're worried a bit if it translates because he hasn't been picked.
Yeah.
And they could be wrong. The NBA's wrong quite a bit. And then Stephen A. goes on First Take and says everybody doesn't know what they're doing. That's what happens.
Well,
that's what happens.
I don't say everybody. I just highlight those who don't. You know, that's all. I mean, that's all.
To be a lot.
I mean, that's what comes with it. You know. I mean, that's what comes with it.
Hey, listen, and the Bucks are on the clock. We know what's lurking at pick 24 and 25. Right. He has been fantastic for the last 2.5 hours, but it's coming. It's building with the Knicks and holding back-to-back picks at 24
those picks,
and 25.
we go to commercial.
They would do that.
Commercial.
They don't do that.
Nobody
the
cares.
Advertisers
Nobody
and sponsors, we want bills paid, but at the end of the day, they want good television.
He may do a
waiting, baby. They waiting. Orange and blue skies. Orange and blue skies, baby. That's what I'm talking about right here. You know I've been chomping at the bit.
Yes,
but we'll
you have.
Wait for it. It's coming, Bob.
You've done a fantastic job holding your emotions before we talk about the Knicks. Because, again, on this set 2 years ago, he was in dismay and down in the dumps trying to figure out things. And with Jalen Brunson, part of that Knicks nucleus, and now the Villanova Wildcats take it up. We'll get to it.
It don't matter.
Right now, let's go to the Bucks.
We're not talking about the past.
Commissioner.
We're not talking about the past.
Adam Silver.
With the 23rd pick in the 2024 NBA Draft, the Milwaukee Bucks select A.J. Johnson from Fresno, California, and Australia's Illawarra Hawks of the NBL.
A.J. Johnson, part of the crowd. A handful of prospects decided to come to Brooklyn and sit and enjoy the process with the spectators, not invited to the green room, so he gets to hear his name called. The guard from Australia, you know, the 47th ranked prospect, according to 2023 ESPN's 100 high school recruits. He committed to Texas before joining the NBL. That's the professional league in Australia. And the numbers don't pop out, but there was a guy that played for that Hawks team in Australia a few years ago, and he turned out to be pretty good. His name was LaMelo Ball.
Well, let's not make that comparison. I mean,
not at all.
They played for the same team.
But for some
LaMelo Ball put up some numbers. This is it's a surprising pick. This is a very surprising pick. Not to say it's a bad pick. It's a surprising pick, and not a lot known about him. 6'4", right there to Quora, a light player, but apparently the Bucks have seen enough, and they saw enough in this guy because he didn't play huge minutes, but they're drafting him on potential, and it's a long play for this Milwaukee Bucks team.
One thing I will say is that you can afford to draft for potential when you have Giannis Antetokounmpo as your star player. He makes up for a lot of deficiencies.
Yeah, and again, the Bucks were probably not getting a guy to help them right away anyway, so they bet on the future.
And right now, AJ standing by with Monica.
Wow, guys, we got a little surprise down here. A.J. Johnson, Jalen is here as well. All right, you're sitting in the stands. That means that you had the utmost belief that you would hear your name be called. What gave you the confidence?
I would just say the work that I put in my whole life to get here, and just my supporters and my family around me, and just my belief in myself and God.
Jalen, you forced your way up on stage, frankly. But why is it important that you share this moment with this young man?
Just because I've been around him since he was a kid. 14 was in the gym, working hard, long nights, long days. I seen the work he put in. That's what he deserves.
AJ, congratulations. Welcome to your next chapter.
Thank you.
Have a good one, baby.
Cool moment for the 19-year-old, and the New York Knickerbockers are on the clock, and guess what?
Yeah!
It's time to go to break. We'll be back with much more of the NBA Draft.
Yeah, Bob!
Long break. Presented by State
Take a long
Farm.
break.
National.
On Tuesday, NBA draft prospects took part in a youth basketball combine in partnership with the Junior NBA and Junior WNBA, National Basketball Players Association, and New Era. Local New York City youth from Carmelo Anthony's Black Ops organization learned about injury prevention and worked on combine drills with the draftees at the Players Association headquarters. Welcome back here to Brooklyn. NBA draft continues. New York Knicks scheduled to be on the clock with pick number 24. Adrian Wojnarowski is reporting a trade has taken place where the Wizards, who pick at 26, will jump to 24, and the Knicks will pick at 25 and 26. Knicks fan Stephen A. Smith holding his breath right now. We will get his thoughts in a moment. Bob Myers here, Kevin Nagandi as well. So the Wizards, they picked at 2.
Don't look over here.
They picked at 14.
I'm going to go to the back.
And right now, scheduled to pick at 24. So you're going to hear the Knicks selection, but it's going to Washington. And here's the commissioner, Adam Silver.
With the 24th pick in the 2024 NBA Draft, the New York Knicks select Keyshawn George from Monte, Switzerland, and the University of Miami.
George is the first Miami player drafted in the first round since Lonnie Walker IV in 2018. And again, this pick will go to the Wizards as the Knicks will pick at 25 right now on the clock, alongside pick number 26 coming from Adrian Wojnarowski. So Keyshawn George, the third player in this draft in the top 24, going to Washington. So the message is sent. We all see it. That team is trying to fill this entire roster with a ton of youth for the Wizards. And we're talking about a young man who shot 41% from 3, 20 years old. Played point guard growing up, was 5'9" at the age of 15, has great instincts as a passer. Now he's at 6'8". His basketball career certainly has a global influence. His biggest challenge might just be getting used to his growth in the game.
So born and raised in Switzerland, played there until I was 15. So then at 15 went to play to France in a place called Chalon-sur-Saône. Spent 4 years there, played 1 year with the pros, and then ended up at the University of Miami for this past year. Shooting ability, he could put the ball in the basket anywhere on the floor. He's versatile, a very smart player, knows how to read defense. Great guy in the locker room and out of the locker room, very positive. He needs to get used to his new body and, be a little bit more physical. I've grown from 5'8", 5'10" to 6'8" now in the past 4 years, so I'm still getting used to this new frame.
Again, we're going to continue to talk about the modern NBA. He fits that style. He can shoot the three, his length as well, and he's standing by Keyshawn with Monica McNutt.
Keyshawn, I loved in your feature, you talk about adjusting to your new frame at 6'8". Now you're adjusting to a new league and another level of basketball. What gives you the confidence that you'll be able to make an impact?
Just the work I put in every single day. I work hard to get here, and I'm going to keep working to get better and make an impact as soon as possible in the league.
You become just the 5th Swiss-born player to be drafted. Now the league, the 5th Swiss-born player to be drafted to the NBA. All right, so the league's international flavor is growing. What should folks know about basketball in Switzerland?
There's basketball here and there. I think there's definitely more room to grow, and I hope, I'll be able to inspire as many people as possible.
You have a big opportunity to represent. Congratulations, Keyshawn.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
I love this hair, babe.
Monica, thank you so much. The hair is fantastic, and it's going to D.C. 3 picks in this draft, part of the Washington Wizards rebuild program, and here comes the New York Knicks. They lost the Pacers in the second round, but really the storyline, the emergence of Jalen Brunson, hurt in that series, but he was so dominant, played like an MVP. All-NBA second team is Brunson leading this squad, the identity of the team. And again, last night, Woj reporting a trade, Mikal Bridges going to New York, and the Nets receiving 5 first-round picks. And then the news earlier this afternoon from Woj, OG Anunoby intending to re-sign 5 years and stay in New York, and that was on your wish list, Stephen A. Smith, specifically after that trade with Bridges, reuniting all the Villanova Wildcats. We need OG. You got OG. You got Bridges. How are we feeling right now?
I feel ecstatic. I couldn't wait for this segment right here. I stayed here for this segment right here. This is what it's all about, baby. OG, you had to keep him, okay? 26-6 with him in the lineup, okay? Including the regular season and the playoffs, 14-17 without him, okay? With him and Julius Randle together, 12-2. You got Jalen Brunson, who has elevated himself to practically superstar status when you consider the way that he's been performing. Dante DiVincenzo, you know what? I mean, the Steph Curry effect rubbed up on it at times, with him sharpshooting in a few playoff games, okay? You got that. We know the rough rider that is Josh Hart. And then you go out and you get Mikal Bridges, an elite defender, a brother that is good for 19 to 20 a night, shoots about 37% from three-point range, and then you consider the camaraderie and the chemistry. People like you always talk about that. Do they want to be there? Are they going to get along? Are they rooting for one another? Are they selfless? Well, excuse me, Hart, DiVincenzo, Brunson, Bridges. I mean, come on now. They played together, all right? And then you got Julius Randle, who's got something to prove. Okay, listen, I'm worried about the Hartenstein thing. I got all of that. Oh, my gosh. But let me say this. You can't have it all. And that's what the draft is about. You can find, I don't want to lose them, but you can find a way to replace them. The nucleus of the New York Knicks is going this way. Dolan is in Vegas with the spear and all of that stuff. He's out of the way. Leon Rose has done a great job. Worldwide West, I mean all of them. Tom Thibodeau, let me not forget him. Go orange and blue skies, baby. Orange and blue sky is what it's all about. You crawl before you walk. They crawled last season. They're going to walk next season. We're going this way. We're going this way.
Here's the thing. This segment's going to last a little bit longer because the Knicks continue to pick after 25. They got 26. Can they trade the pick?
No.
Are we sure they didn't trade the pick?
No. Don't be this way.
Don't be this way. Wondering, there could have been a trade.
Listen, man.
They might have traded him. Whoa.
You don't understand. You know what bothers me about you? You don't know how lucky you are. God has truly blessed you. The New York Knicks have the number 8 pick. The New York Knicks have the number 8 pick in 2009. Steph Curry goes at 7. They wanted him, but to get him a pick beforehand. You see, we didn't have the luck.
Yeah.
You did.
Okay.
But now it's coming. It's coming. It's coming.
What do you need right now? Do you
a
need
shooter.
length?
You need two things. You need a shooter, and you need size to potentially replace Hartenstein.
Okay. All right, are you finished?
Yes.
Okay. I got to commend him.
For now.
He waited 2 hours and 47 minutes. Are you okay? Busted on the set.
You need some water?
I'm good. I don't need a water. I'm ready.
Okay, listen. You know what? There's only one reason I have a hard time complimenting the Knicks. He's about 3 feet to my left.
That's the only reason.
Every other thing they're doing, they should be praised. They should be praised. Like you said, Leon Rose, Tom Thibodeau, Worldwide West, getting Jalen Brunson. It's easy to say now, oh, of course, not many people saw that when they did that. That was great foresight. Ending up with Mikal Bridges and OG Anunoby. That's a home run free agency already.
And guess what, Stephen A? The pick is in. Here's the commissioner, Adam Silver.
With the 25th pick in the 2024 NBA Draft, the New York Knicks select Hakoum Dadier from Vitry-sur-Seine, France.
Wait, I'm going to change that face. Dadier, by the way, the 4th Frenchman taken in the first round of this draft. Ready for this.
Okay.
You got length there. 6'9", shooting 40% from 3.
Okay.
Last 10 games, he shot 84% from 2.
Okay.
And 43% from 3.
I'm good.
You have the length and you have a shooter.
I have the length, I have a shooter. I like that, but not the kind of length that I was talking about to replace a hard.
Understood.
I understand.
Guess what? You
but
pick again.
I got it. You got another pick. I'm all right with that. I'm all right.
He is an interesting player, and if you watch him shoot, it looks like he is one of these elite shooters. And here's the thing. No matter who the Knicks drafted, he's not playing. It's not a knock on this player or any player, for whoever they would have taken. Filipowski probably, even a veteran guy that played in college, would have a hard time cracking this Knicks lineup, and that's a compliment. They are a deep team, and they are flush at the guard position. and it's just going to be hard for anybody. So they went the long route, took a very young player with a lot of upside that can shoot the ball.
And he's 18 years old.
Is he going to play in practice? The answer is yes. Is he going to get the guys? Is he going to be good enough to get the guys ready for the competition? Yes. It's not always about coming in immediately and doing what you need to do then. You know what? Sometimes it's about having the guys that's supposed to get the job done prepared to get the job done.
I was trying to be complimentary of
Orange and blue sky. Okay. Orange and blue sky.
Okay. According to Jonathan Gavoni, Dadier has excellent size for a wing at 6'9", good scoring instincts for both finishing around the rim and making shots with his feet set, pulling up off the dribble. Again, 18 years, young here. We're talking about a young man who has roots from the Ivory Coast, and he has the opportunity to shine in the Big Apple down the road, standing by with Monica.
Back home, you've played in some of the top leagues, or in the top league in France. What would you say is your best skill that will translate to now your NBA career?
I think I'm able to play with like intensity and make shots, and I think it's the most important thing for a rookie to bring to the team. So yeah, play defense, play hard, and make shots.
You have an older brother who has played ball professionally for the Ivory Coast. He's been a pro. Now you have your opportunity to be a pro in the NBA. What have you learned from him?
I learned a lot. I learned a lot from his mistakes, the good things he did, and I respect him a lot. He's very honest about the mistakes he made, and I really learned a lot about him.
Are you excited?
A lot. I can't say it. I don't have no words right now.
Congratulations, Paco.
Thank you.
Monica, thank you so much. Again, a phenomenal night. France celebrated a year ago with Victor Wembanyama going #1 overall. We got Risha Shea going #1, Sarr going #2, Salon eventually going in the lottery, and then Dadier here right now with the Knicks. So that is 4 Frenchmen going in the top 25, 3 in the top 6, and they feel very good. You can't say enough about what that country has done in developing talent over the last 20 years to have the impact on the NBA stage. And guess what? The Knicks continue to be on the clock. Bob, I wanted to ask you one thing.
Yeah, thank you.
As a
Appreciate
GM,
that.
and we'll get Stephen
Thank
A's
you.
thoughts.
I thought we were going to do Stephen A the whole
As
time.
a GM, we have seen, especially over the last couple of years, the bounty given for Kevin Durant, bounties given for Donovan Mitchell. Did the Knicks give up too much for a guy like Bridges in your mind when we talk about unprotected 4 first-rounders?
Well, I'll tell you what. People thought Milwaukee gave up a lot for Drew Holiday. He got him a championship. So the question is, we will see. I know that's not a popular answer, but if the Knicks come out and they get to the NBA Finals, or I know this is hard, or they win a championship, if that happens, I'm not going to be anywhere near Stephen A.
Can you imagine?
But you know what? You'd have to look at what else they were going to do with these picks. I wonder if you want to say, and you want me to answer that question, could they have gotten Donovan Mitchell for the same haul? I don't know. I don't know if they could have or not, but they didn't. Doesn't matter. The Knicks have done a tremendous job, and now they have Mikal Bridges on a fantastic contract. He's half the price of Donovan Mitchell. That's another thing to consider. It gives them more flexibility. Maybe with Donovan Mitchell, they can't have OG Anunoby, so there's dominoes to all this stuff. But now they have a deep, versatile team that is scary to play against. I mean, you've got 2 of the best perimeter defenders in the entire NBA, in OG Anunoby and Mikal Bridges. And Boston did that with Derek White and Drew Holiday. Now, they're smaller a little bit, but same point. These guys are bigger and can guard multiple positions. So Tom Thibodeau, don't give him this many good defenders, because watch out, I don't know how anybody's going to score.
I will say this, contrary to what you believe, I actually like listening to you talk because I love correcting you. I really do.
Well, there's nothing I said that needs correcting. There's nothing I said that needs correcting.
You said needs correcting right now, but usually that is the case. Here's the reality in all seriousness. I think, you know what the biggest thing I think the Knicks deserve so much credit for? As a Knicks fan, lifelong Knicks fan, seeing the level of just purgatory, I mean, just ineptitude and everything. To watch them change this culture. I can't say that about them. You and other executives throughout the NBA in all seriousness have taught me this year after year after year. Culture matters.
Oh, yeah.
Culture matters. And when you got Thibodeau and these guys love playing for him and he's hard-nosed and he's hardcore and you see them go out and give the kind of effort that they gave throughout the season into the postseason, knowing that if they had not gotten injured, in all likelihood they would have been a series away from the NBA Finals. They would have been in the conference finals. That's just something that really, really resonates with you. So I applaud them so much. for really changing the culture of this team. That's really where they deserve the most credit.
And you talk about playing hard, and you say, I want my team to play hard. Well, give your team hard-playing players. And they have a lot of those guys, and they just added one in Bridges and Anunoby.
By the way, we're taking a look at Johnny Furphy of Kansas. Isaiah Collier waiting to hear his name. The Wizards are here, but this pick is going to the Knicks. Here's the commissioner.
Pick in the 2024 NBA Draft, the Washington Wizards select Dylan Jones from Weber State University.
All right, Stephen A. You're getting a guy who's 6'6", 235 pounds, led the Big Sky Conference in points, rebounds, and assists. The only player in the country to lead a conference in all three. Averages 21 points per game, shot 32% from three. How we feeling?
Are we still recording?
He's a big body.
Yes.
Clearly physical. We like that in New York because we're going to need something like that right now.
Okay, well, hold that thought.
Unless he's going over.
Jumping in.
Yeah.
And he's saying this trade with the Wizards is not going to the Knicks, it's going to the Thunder.
Okay.
So Oklahoma City gets somebody who could score once again.
I'm not going to react to this. Leon Rose has given us every reason to believe in him. All right, if he believes that this is a pick that needs to go elsewhere, I'm going to trust his judgment. I know that's an aberration for me, but damn it, that's where I'm at right now.
And we will get more information from Woj on what exactly went down with this trade. You know, watching his big brother develop into a pro provided a guiding light into Dylan's progression and growth as a basketball player.
My older brother, Eric Washington, he's 8 years older than me. He's a point guard. He was starting his pro career, so he was developing different habits and things like that. But I was able to see him go on that growth, and it was good for my personal development. That can make plays in a lot of ways without the ball and things like that. And know I have the ability to do that and adjust to people around me in any type of environment.
The 2024 NBA Draft continues from Brooklyn right after this.
NBA Draft 2024 is presented by State Farm. Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there.
Back here at the Barclays Center with the Minnesota Timberwolves on the clock. Bob Myers, Stephen A. Smith, Kevin Nagandi here with you as we are at pick number 27 with the Timberwolves again on the clock. Team that had a phenomenal run led by Anthony Edwards and Karl Anthony Towns. Here's the commissioner, Adam Silver, at the podium.
With the 27th pick in the 2024 NBA Draft, the Minnesota Timberwolves select Terrence Shannon Jr. from the University of Illinois.
Shannon, a wing out of Illinois, 23 years old, classic 3-and-D player in the modern NBA. 3 years at Texas Tech, and then he went to Illinois, scored 40 points in the Big Ten semifinals, a tournament record. Terrence's talent on the court is undeniable. In his own words, Shannon gives us a breakdown on what his game will be in the league.
Me on the defensive end, I'm a really good on-ball defender. I can get downhill and transition. I'm a good communicator, and I'm a good shooter.
He splashed it through. It didn't touch a piece of the iron.
My shooting and consistency. That's been the biggest improvement with my game. Just doing everything that I can on and off the court, day to day. Not having a day where I'm like, oh, I don't want to do it today. Just being consistent and holding myself accountable every day, doing what I need to do.
Earlier this month, Terrence Shannon was found not guilty on a rape charge after a jury spent 2 hours deliberating the verdict. The 23-year-old was accused of committing sexual assault last September. He was suspended 6 games during the basketball season. Shannon has maintained his innocence throughout the process, and teams have been closely monitoring the situation as Shannon will now go to Minnesota. Back here with Stephen A. as well as Bob. You know, when we talk about fit and the Timberwolves, I mean, you bring in just stars because you got Anthony Edwards and a guy like Karl Anthony Towns. And Shannon's one of those guys who fits this modern league perfectly, where he can do the defense and he's not afraid to shoot the three from the outside.
You're going to play for the Minnesota Timberwolves, you got to play defense. They're the number one defense in the NBA this year. You got to play defense. That's number one. Number two, Bob, help me out here. I think it's incredibly important to decipher how somebody scores. Ant-Man, the Ant-Man himself is the man. Make no mistake about it. You could be a catch-and-shoot guy, and that works with them. But if you're somebody that needs the basketball and you want that because you believe you've got breakdown ability, and that's how you're scoring, yeah, in some instances that can work for you, but it can work against you because it's taking the ball away from him. I think we've got to monitor that. Minnesota knows what it's doing, I will imagine, but I still think it's something to keep an eye on.
Well, Tim Connelly has a very good draft record coming from Denver, and now Minnesota's done a tremendous job. 48% from the field, 36 from three. This guy can score a lot of different levels, so we'll see what he does for the Timberwolves.
Right now we got the Nuggets on the clock. His pick is for the Suns.
The 28th pick in the 2024 NBA Draft, the Denver Nuggets select Ryan Dunn from the University of Virginia.
6'8". When you come from Virginia, you better play defense. And that's where he will honestly hone his craft in the league. He's an elite defender, can guard 1 through 4. The only guard in Virginia history to have over 75 blocks. He's all over the floor.
Yeah, 1.3 steals, 2.3 blocks. A lot of people say this guy's a future All-NBA defensive player, which is a huge thing. It's a huge compliment for somebody to get, and you get him at this point in the draft and you say he's going to be at least a high-quality defender. The question, obviously, if he was a great offensive player, he's a top 5 pick. So he's on one side of the ball, showing he can do it. But the question is can he develop a shot? That is something players can develop as they move along in the NBA.
Well, we knew he wasn't a great offensive player because he played on Virginia. I mean, my Lord, they took us back in time with how archaic their offense was, my Lord. So we knew that you're drafting somebody out of Virginia. It's defense, but I wish him nothing but the best. It seems like he's got a bright future. So
Ryan's work ethic on and off the court has put him in the position that he's in today. By the way, he's got a brother who played in the major leagues.
I think defensively, I'm all around defensive player. Be able to disrupt offenses, stop a lot of guys, block shots, get steals, bring energy, and bring a lot of stuff offensively too, get into the rim.
That's Ryan Dunn.
I think just the hard work of being in the gym, the countless hours is the biggest thing for me. I was always in the cage with my brother and my dad, and it's the same thing now on the court. I'll say my brother is my biggest mentor. He's my role model. Baseball, that was my first love. That was my first sport. I played that until I played basketball. I dreamt about walking across that stage. If this can be cool, having a dream come true.
Didn't start playing basketball till he was 14, 7'1" wingspan, longer than LeBron James. Ryan Dunn with Monica McNutt.
Ryan, you can't hear it because it's loud in here. It's a celebration. But the last line of your feature is, I've dreamt about this moment. I can't wait to walk across the stage. You just did it. How do you reflect?
It's surreal. Since I was young, I used to dress up like I was in this draft and walking across the stage with my mom in the living room and the couch. So being able to do it tonight, it's so surreal. And I thank God I can want to do that with him.
Virginia is a historic program in terms of basketball. The Denver Nuggets are a team that you have to be mindful of in the NBA. How do you think you've been prepared, or how well have you been prepared for this chapter?
I think Virginia's helped me a lot. Coach Ben and the coaching staff helped me with all defensively, and just, becoming in a role with those guys, just being able to establish my role and be good in that role. That's the best I can do.
Congratulations, Ryan.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Monica, thank you. As Ryan goes to the Suns and obviously going to work on his offensive game. He doesn't need to have an offensive game when you're going to Phoenix because you won't have the basketball a lot. Just defend on the other end. And as we get towards the back end of this first round, this is going to be a unique thing for the NBA. Night 1 has the first 30 picks. Night 2 is tomorrow over on ESPN. And the Jazz, the pick is in. Pick number 29, here's the commissioner.
With the 29th pick in the 2024 NBA Draft, the Utah Jazz select Isaiah Collier from the University of Southern California.
He was a year ago the #1 high school recruit. Played his first 16 games at USC, averaged over 15 points per game at USC, but then he fractured his hand in January. Teammates with Bronny James, and this young man physically, you know, he could play on the football field. He's ready to go.
Yeah, you know, a little bit of Lou Dort potentially in this type of player. I know that maybe he wants to handle more. Dort handled a lot more at Arizona State. He might be more of an off-ball guy than he was at USC. He had a lot of responsibilities there. 34 from 3, 67 from the free throw line. I'd like to see a little bit better shooting mechanics. But there's no reason why he can't be very, very successful. He dominated prior to showing up in college, and the USC season was up and down for many reasons, including his own Isaiah Collier. But this is the time in the draft, Kevin, Stephen A., where you take a roll of the dice and say, I'm betting on talent, I'm going to put him in our program, and there's no reason why he can't be very good there.
You know, listen, Danny Ainge. Danny Ainge, he's the CEO, making these kind of selections. You know he knows what he's doing. I believe in this kid.
The #1 high school recruit chose #1 on his jersey while at USC, offering his own scouting report.
Hard-nosed, willing to compete, get downhill, get my teammates involved, be a two-way player, and just wanting to win. Kill anything in front of me. And that's my personality on the court. I mean, it's no joking around in between those lines.
Tell me what that purple bracelet represents on your wrist.
It represents Khalil Hardison. My cousin, well, we really like brothers, live like Khalil. So, someone who passed away real deep, close to me. And you know, I just continue every day to just live like him and just work hard every day and don't take nothing for granted.
There were certain moments where he looked like the #1 pick. Take a look at the film against Washington back in March. He had 31 points. Feels like the Jazz getting a steal at 29, Isaiah with Monica.
Isaiah, you and I just chatted a little bit about the outfit. It's a very important piece of jewelry. Explain to the folks at home.
Long live Khalil. Cousin, my brother that passed away. So, I mean, I keep going every day. You know, it's motivation for sure.
You are here, and you have the opportunity to begin your NBA career. Scoring is the highlight of what you were able to do in college. But what else will you be bringing to your new NBA team?
I'm bringing a complete player, a two-way defender. Man, we do both sides of the ball. You know, I'm just looking, you know, just motivated right now, you know, for sure. So, yeah.
Are you more motivated by the folks that believed in you or the folks that didn't?
The ones that didn't, for sure.
All right, Isaiah, best of luck in the next chapter. Thank you.
Thank you.
Monica, thank you so much. Reminding you, after the draft, the first round here on ABC and ESPN. Over on ESPN, hey, is that Scott Van Pelt? No, he's in studio, draft reaction and analysis. Plenty of Scott Van Pelt. No, that's not right. Scott either.
Not right.
And y'all call me crew.
That is not right.
Call me crew.
Not right. That's not right.
And plus, Scott will have the Subway Series finale. Hey, Rodney Perez is all part of this, not me, Scott. SVP. I had nothing to do with it. Our outstanding director locking in on SVP, of course, coming up on ESPN as it continues. By the way, you know, Isaiah Collier, a teammate of Bronny James at USC. And Bronny James's name, we have yet to hear it called by Adam Silver. We potentially will hear it tomorrow in round #2 over on ESPN, which starts at 4 o'clock. How do you evaluate this young man? Because sometimes it's very unfair to take a look at Bronny James complete when you look at his college numbers after what he had to deal with for 5 months with the heart condition.
Cardiac arrest in the summer. Wasn't able to play until January. Obviously under a lot of scrutiny because of who his daddy is and what his daddy said about wanting to play with him and what have you. And so you're looking at it, and a lot of people use that as an excuse not to really evaluate him enough. But obviously considered athletic, committed to defending, high basketball IQ. We see what that materializes into, who will try to take advantage of that. But in the end, he is the son of LeBron James, who has declared he'd give anything to play basketball in the NBA with his son, and people are going to look at that no matter what he tries to say to backtrack on that.
Well, I'll tell you what, just speaking about what Bronny's saying, and everything I've heard him say, is it seems like a tremendous young man. I mean,
He's
the exactly type
so well.
of the exactly type of young man you'd want in your household. I mean, they've done a tremendous job raising him, and it is not easy with what he's been exposed to. And some would say, oh, it's so great, but there are some burdens to that.
Right.
But I do think he's a young player, and I think he's just going to get better and better and better. I do expect to hear his name
called tomorrow night, whatever team that is, it will be. But the point about him is I think he loves playing basketball. He didn't ask for all this exposure. He didn't ask for it as a player. So I think he's going to do very well. I just think it's going to take some time. That's all.
I also think it's important to point out that LeBron wasn't wrong. You're a dad that loves your child.
Absolutely.
And you're still a star in this league. And to express and verbalize.
There's nothing wrong with any of it.
To play with your son, there's nothing wrong with it. It's just that people were going to take it in a way, using it as an excuse to scrutinize his son.
But you know what? I mean,
and he doesn't know
if
that.
we would all say that as fathers.
Absolutely.
Who's not going to want to play with their son? It's not a bad. None of this is bad. It's actually a very good story. I don't know why anybody would try to make it a bad story.
I agree.
It's a good story.
Because LeBron James is a free agent and he's so great and so powerful, you believe that he can manipulate any situation. That's the reason why. But it's not his fault. It's not Bronny James' fault. It's just the reality of the world we live in.
Keep in mind, the Lakers pick at 55 in round number 2. The team that's picking at 54,
Boston.
It's the Celtics. And the Celtics currently on the clock for the final pick, the NBA champs at number 30 for the final pick in first round. In this first round, and when you look at all the options that they have, they just seem to get it. They're fully aware of who they are, the identity of those two forwards dominating in Brown and Tatum. And we've got the commissioner with the final pick of the night here at the Barclays Center. It's the Boston Celtics. Here is Adam Silver.
With the 30th pick in the 2024 NBA Draft, the Boston Celtics select Baylor Shireman from Creighton University. And that concludes the first round. The second round of the draft will begin tomorrow at 4 p.m. Eastern Time on ESPN. Thanks to all the fans, especially here at Barclays Center. Thank you and have a good night.
I just want to say, Baylor Shireman is the perfect Celtics pick. He is
they have Sam Hauser. Don't they have Hauser?
He is unbelievable. The first Division I men's player in history to have at least 2,000 career points, 1,000 rebounds, 500 assists, and 300 threes. He could do it all.
And shooting always translates. And we're joking around about it. So he can play on any team, to be honest. I mean, he's a good pick. He's a little older. You want to be critical. Turns 24 in September. Did a nice job shooting the basketball. He shoots it on the run. He shoots it on the catch. Put up a huge amount of points. Like I said, 38 from 3, 88 from the line. All the indicators are he's going to be able to shoot it from distance in the NBA. So you're right. The Celtics.
It's amazing.
It's going to, but again, I can say it about any team, but it's certainly going to help them.
The Celtics launch threes. We know they like to do that. They're the reigning defending NBA champions. It doesn't matter that he's a bit old at age 24. They can afford it because they've got talent, particularly in their starting five. They need help coming off the bench, getting somebody a bit more seasoned that stayed in college a little bit longer, who can shoot, who can score. All right, that fits the mold of what they want for the immediate future. It's a good pick.
He's a lefty from South Dakota State, and then he transferred to Creighton. I love this little storyline about him. In 5th grade, the gym teacher had in a teacher-parent conference sat down with the family and said, he's too competitive. In 5th grade. And you see that transfer here, of course.
Yeah, that's why he's in the NBA now.
Exactly.
Right? That's why he's in the NBA.
Sounds like a Joe Mazzulla kind of guy.
Yes, he does. No doubt about it. Hey, listen, we saw 30 dreams fulfilled tonight on the big stage. When we reflect here over the last 3 hours, what's the thing that stands out to you the most, Stephen A?
Well, I mean, I'm thinking about the international players that were picked very high in the draft, and it just shows and it really illustrates the globalization of the NBA, how you've got players from all over the world that were ultra talented, and they're putting everybody on notice. They're coming. We're looking forward to Olympic competition this summer. We get all of that, but when you see some of these players coming into this league and making this kind of noise, it should be a message to American players. Elevate your game. Be ready, because you got people from all over the world that the NBA is connecting to, and they will bring them in a heartbeat. They're looking for the best player. Make sure you're one of them.
Absolutely. And a lot of them had foundations internationally, even if they ended up over here in U.S. for college. But I love to see the versatility of all the players. Everybody knows they need to shoot, pass, dribble, now rebound, defend multiple positions. So the NBA is evolving before our eyes, and these players are adapting to that. And it's exciting to see all these young players walking in the NBA, especially the stories about their families. Love that part.
Yeah, I love that. And I love what the Spurs have done to make sure their team is better. And keep an eye, especially with all the talent that's still on the board, because one thing that's different, we got round 2 coming your way on ESPN, 4 p.m. Eastern time tomorrow. For Bob, Stephen A. Smith, I'm Kevin Nagandi. Good night, everyone.
I just came back for the win. got a new money in my hand. Gonna tell a friend to tell a friend. They say success is the best revenge. Heard they was sleeping again, say it no more. This is a rude awakening, kicking the door. Back and I'm better than ever before. Don't get it mistaken, I'm ready for war.